Hey guys and welcome back to my channel. This is part 3 of What If Naruto Was Trained by Orochimaru. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and also go and support the author, link in description. The Oto team spent the next week helping out around Wave, getting them back on their feet in Gato's absence. They did their best to avoid the Konoha nin, who were doing the same but keeping an eye out for them. Things might have gone a lot easier if Naruto was well enough to use his shadow clones, but now he barely had enough energy for a Rasengan. At least this gave him more time to catch up with Kushina, and gave the other girls an excuse to be more affectionate towards him. Hinata was currently out helping unload merchandise for a store that was restocking its wares. With Gato gone, and Zabuza and Anko able to find where he kept his fortune, Wave had money again and could return to normal. Of course, some of the money went to Oto and Konoha for their payments, but the rest went to Wave. The Konoha team had objected to the Oto teams getting paid for interfering until Tsunami clarified that she was the one to hire them and they did do their job. That's the last one. Hinata told the shopkeeper as she brought in the final box of merchandise. Again he enjoyed the nice aroma of the store, which was a bakery and had something sweet baking right then. Thank you. Now I can finally afford to have more than one meal a day again. The older man told her. Hinata smiled. I can't stay long. I need to help out the other stores too. The shopkeeper nodded. Okay, and take this as a token of gratitude. She was about to decline, until she saw she was being offered a cinnamon roll. Thanks. Don't mind if I do. She reached out for it, but stopped before she grabbed it. Oh, sorry, but I don't like the ones with raisins in them. Oh, sorry, I'm momentarily out of the regular ones. It's okay, don't worry about it. Have a nice day. The kunoichi said as she left and walked down the street, looking for another place to lend a helping hand. Hey! Some boy called out to her from behind, sounding like they were running up to her. On reflex she turned to see who it was, and frowned at seeing it was the dog using Genin from Konoha. What do you want? She asked, feeling she might as well get this over with then leave. I just wanted to talk. You might like me if you gave me a chance. I told you I'm taken and I don't like Leaf Nin. Why not? We are the strongest in the elemental nations after all. Hinata scoffed. I doubt it. How about I show you what I can do? That might change your mind. Kiba said confidently. Hinata smiled at him, but a chuckle could be heard with it. You won't impress me. My fiancé has 9 times the power and talent you do. Fiancé? Kiba asked in disbelief. Yep, I'm betrothed to the man who will rule my village someday as its cage. You couldn't possibly compare to him. Well, I'm tough enough to be Hokage right now. Kiba said, trying to salvage his macho image. Hinata responded with a kick to his groin, making him collapse. Some Hokage. You even fell for that yesterday. Before he could get up, she shushined away with a trail of grass instead of leaves. Across town another of the Oto genin was being bothered by one of the Konoha students. Fu was heading towards a warehouse to get more equipment for the men working on Tazuna's bridge. Now that the main threat to it was gone, men came back to work on it and the gear was in short supply. On her way there, she ran into the pink-haired kunoichi of Konoha. Fu acted as if her presence was unimportant, but out of professionalism rather than rudeness. She had been taught not to get distracted by inconsequential details when on the job, and she figured Sakura couldn't do much to her. However, she wasn't going to underestimate this girl since she had yet to see her actually use any skills yet. What the heck are you creeps doing here? Sakura rudely asked as Fu went about her business. Fu didn't bother to look at her, just gathered some construction tools. My team was hiring to check out some potential danger. I myself am just helping the construction crew. What are you doing here? My team was hired to do this job. You're just getting in the way. Fu shrugged. We were both hired so we both have the right to be here and do our jobs. Sorry if that inconveniences you. She didn't sound too sincere with that last part. Sakura crossed her arms in a defiant manner. You also hurt my Sasuke-kun. That's downright unforgivable. Now the green-haired Jinchuriki gave the pink-haired fangirl eye contact, and it wasn't friendly. 1. I wasn't the one who did that. 2. He deserved it for trying to kill my comrade. And 3. I heard he used you to take a hit for him. So how can you defend him? Sakura narrowed her eyes and gritted her teeth. Well, in no particular order, I'm glad I could help him and I'd do it again if he asked me to. Your teammate shouldn't have refused his orders, and you're guilty by association. Dear Kami girl, what the hell kind of thinking is that? Fu all but shouted. Shut up. Sakura screamed, making Fu cover her ears. You don't know anything. You don't even come from a real ninja village. Fu didn't look bothered by anything other than the ringing in her ears, that is. Oh my, I don't have the respect of someone from Konoha. How will I survive? There was so much sarcasm in her voice a deaf person could detect it. Sakura balled up her fist and swung at her Oto Kunoichi, who seemed to vanish into thin air before the fist connected. What the hell? She asked, looking around to find her target. Where are you? Show yourself, damn it, she shouted as she pulled out a kunai. From her hiding spot, Fu watched and moved elsewhere. Does she really believe I'd listen to her? How much training does Konoha offer its students? And why does she screech like that? Even our sound jutsu using nin don't make that much noise. Once she was out of Sakura's reach, Fu continued towards the bridge. I wonder if she'll ever realize just how I got out of there. Sasama was currently walking around the town subtly, trying to find any unrecognized shinobi activity. After all, they weren't sure how many ninja were holding Kushina hostage and if Gato had any plans for after his demise. So far it looked like he didn't, but until the bridge was completed they couldn't be sure. So far so good, she thought as she checked her surroundings again. All she saw were civilians in good moods enjoying their recovered economy. No one looked like they were trying to cause trouble for anyone. Then she ran into someone who had trouble written all over him. Sasuke walked up to her with his usual smug yet annoyed look. What do you want? The orange-haired Kunoichi asked, still angered by his attempt to gut Naruto. I'll ask the questions here. Sasuke replied coldly. What makes your pathetic group think you have the right to do harm to me, an elite? Damn, guess what, Naruto-kun heard was right. This guy's so high on himself he actually expects his enemies to respect and admire him too. Sasama dryly thought. Ever hear the phrase, do unto others? You deserved what you got. Do you know who I am? Sasuke asked with narrowed eyes. I don't give a shit who you are. I am Sasuke Uchiha, and you will respect me. Sasama responded by throwing a kunai that nicked his left ear. She could have made a better hit since she was the weapons expert of her team, but she wanted to make him fear her a bit. I said I don't give a shit. Sasuke fumed and tried to activate his Sharingan so he could pummel her into submission. But he found his vision remained the same. What the? He tried again, only for his eyes to hurt this time and still gain no results. Sasama smiled smugly. What's the matter? Is something wrong? She asked in a knowingly mocking way. Sasuke glared at her and settled for attacking without his Kekkei Genkei. He was after all the rookie of the year before he had them, so he should be able to fight well without his Sharingan. He swung his right fist and aimed for her collarbone. She blocked with her left arm and countered with an axe kick, which he blocked with his left leg. She then backed up a step to put some space between them both and pulled out two shuriken. Sasuke meanwhile pulled out his collapsible demon wind shuriken and unfolded it. Sasuke threw his weapon at her. Sasama, experienced with weaponry, could tell there was a second one in the shadow. She dropped her shurikens and did some hand signs. Earth style. Mudwall jutsu. A wall of mud rose and took both hits for her, but they only slowed the throwing weapons down and offset their stability. She regrabbed her own weapons and got out of the way with the time her wall gave her. Sasama threw her shuriken at the Uchiha, who dodged them by jumping backwards. He then prepared his own jutsu. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. He was relieved to see he could do this flawlessly, half afraid that his chakra was out of order or something. Sasama dodged by throwing herself onto the ground, just narrowly being missed by the flame. Once it dissipated, she got back on her feet and pulled out two trench knives and held one in each hand. You're better than I gave you credit for, but you're still no match for me. Prove it with actions, not words, bitch. My thoughts exactly. Sasuke said, trying again to activate his Sharingan again, and it still didn't work. He resorted to another jutsu. Fire style. Phoenix flower jutsu. Several flames came out towards the Oto Kunoichi. Sasama jumped up onto a tree branch to get out of the way. Then she threw two kunai at him. Sasuke jumped backwards to dodge the first one, which landed where he had been standing. The second one impacted the tree behind him, and he soon heard a crackling sound. He turned to see a lit paper bomb attached, and he had ended up getting close to it when he dodged the first one. He performed a substitution with a rock before it exploded. Susanoo looked around, not abandoning her position or dropping her guard. Sasuke appeared behind her and tried to sever her spine with a kunai. Susanoo moved, so all she got was a gash on the left side of her torso. She winced in pain and reacted with a headbutt that connected and made the Uchiha stumble backwards and lose his balance on the tree limb. Before the distance between them increased too much, she used her trench knives to cut his palms, then jumped to the next tree. Should I stay and fight, or leave before it gets rougher? She briefly asked herself. Might as well just go. Got other places to check out and I may need my chakra for bigger threats. She then left, leaving the last Uchiha in Konoha to deal with his lack of victory. Damn her. If I ever see her again or that blonde idiot, I'll kill them. He said when he got back on his feet on the ground and saw she was gone. A week went by and Naruto was back at full strength again. Not only that, but Tazuna's bridge was finished. The townsfolk had gathered for the completion ceremony. Tsunami and Inari were there amongst the crowd watching Tazuna with pride as he gave a speech to everyone present. At the end everyone cheered. When they stopped, Anko and Naruto approached the mother and child. Thank you so much for your help. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been here. Tsunami told them. Thanks. We just wanted to let you know we'll be heading home now. Everything seems to be handled here, so our job's done. Anko replied. Good. Hey, maybe we'll see you guys again someday. Inari said, in a much better mood than when he first met them. Naruto ruffled his hat playfully. Hopefully not too soon. You don't want trouble to start again, do you? Remember, don't tell anyone where we're located or our real names. It will only cause us trouble. Anko told the older woman, who nodded. I guess that's everything. Take care and enjoy your new lives. Thank you. Stay safe. Anko smirked. We're shinobi. We can't stay safe. Orochimaru was in his office going over the paperwork of the day, grimacing over it all. Damn this paperwork. It's just so inconvenient. And there's not even enough to justify using a clone to do it instead. I'd just be wasting chakra for it. It's times like these I wish snakes had hands. A knock at his door encouraged him to take a break. Enter. He said once he placed his pen down. The person who entered certainly surprised him. They wore Anbu-style apparel complete with vest and weapon pouch, and a black cloth mask that covered all but their bright brown eyes. A hood covered their hair and their hands were covered with brownish-red fingerless gloves with metal plates on the back of the hand. Once inside the office and the door was confirmed closed, they removed their hood and mask, smiling at the snake Sanin. Hello Otokage-sama. It's been a while, hasn't it? Ah, Subsonic, good to see you again. What news do you have for me? Not much. I did find out that Konoha might be growing suspicious of our existence by now. It may be too late for that, but please continue. Subsonic suspected he meant more than he admitted, but they did as asked. I had to deal with a rather irritating person back in Konoha named Mizuki Tuji. Somehow, he came to the conclusion I was a double agent for someone else, and wanted to blackmail me with that info. I played dumb, but he said all he had to do was slander me and the result would be good enough for him. Shrewd, but he did have a good point. Orochimaru nodded. Any idea how he caught on? Subsonic shook their head. Honestly, I'm not confident. I can guess. Maybe he saw me speak with Jiraiya-sama last time we did. However he was surprisingly accurate in his claim. The only thing he didn't know was who exactly I was giving information to. This is bad. Orochimaru commented. You and Jiraiya are the only ways we have to keep our eyes on that village. We can't risk you both being outed just yet. I know. That's why I did what I had to. Subsonic added. Orochimaru motioned for them to continue. He told me that the price of his silence was Konoha's forbidden scroll. I asked him what he wanted it for, and he said, and I quote, none of your damn business. My guess is that he wanted to set me up so he could look like a hero and me a traitor as well as a spy for another village. Or maybe he wanted to make like that guy who stole the Nadime's sword and left for AIM. Makes sense. What did you do? I played along, but when it came time to deliver, I gave him a fake scroll. When he opened it to confirm its authenticity, the trap was sprung. I gotta say, when it comes to designing traps, Naruto is better than most Junin. Is he in town currently? No, he's away on his first out-of-village mission, which had very surprising info come in from earlier I think you should hear. But we'll save that for later. Tell me more about what you know. Orochimaru told his hidden agent. Okay. At that time I used Naruto's idea for a layered seal trap. The first layer hit him with a saved lightning jutsu, then when he was unable to competently move, the second layer hit him with a stored fire jutsu. I used the time he was dazed to use the headhunter jutsu to trap him, and then the third layer worked, covering his exposed self with chocolate sauce. Orochimaru arched an eyebrow. Chocolate sauce? Seriously? I'd expect something a little more professional from you, Subsonic. This took place in a forest, where there are no short supply of bugs. Subsonic added with a devious grin. That made the snake Sannin grin too. Brilliant. What happened next? I contemplated giving him an ultimatum, but I figured there was no real way to convince the douchebag to remain silent. The spy answered. So I had to kill him. Problem was how to do it without leaving any way to tie back to me or make it too big a deal so the Anbu wouldn't make a big investigation out of it. Naturally I needed to think it over. Lucky for me no one was actually looking for us since there was no breach of security, like there would have been had I actually taken the scroll. What about the nightly patrols? Wouldn't they have noticed something, like your prisoner's screams? I used a silencing barrier for that. Anyway, after a moment's thought, I decided the best thing I could do was just kill him and eliminate the evidence. I cut off his head, got his body out of the ground, and made the area look a little scorched so anyone who came by would think his body was incinerated on the spot. Then I got out of there and actually destroyed the body. Once I was done, I figured I might as well stop by and let you know. That's good. What do you think are the chances that this Mizuki was it? Orochimaru asked, and got a nod as his answer. What do you think are the chances he told someone else before you eliminated him? I'm not sure. I figure if he did there would have been someone watching him when he met me to confirm his theory. Since no one helped him I can only conclude he acted on his own. However, I am aware of the possibility he did say something, so once I get back to Konoha I will see what I can. Good. While you're here Subsonic, I have some news I think you'll find interesting. It appears that Kushina Uzumaki is alive. Subsonic's body stiffened and their eyes widened. What? Kushina-san is alive. How can that be? From the short report I got from my goddaughter, someone found her comatose body and moved it to a hidden base by wave in an attempt to revive her. Evidence indicates the one behind this did not have beneficial motives in doing so. Naruto's presence managed to make her regain consciousness, and she will be on her way here soon with him. Good. Maybe then I can give her something I've been holding onto. I was going to give it to Naruto once he was old enough, but this is probably for the best. Orochimaru nodded. By the way, the report revealed that a team of Konoha ninja were there in wave at the same time. It was Kakashi Hatake with his genin students. Subsonic frowned. Kakashi was in the same place as Naruto. Sadly yes. I don't know what has happened between the two of them yet, if anything. Subsonic groaned and crossed their arms. If that team was there, it couldn't be good. Care to explain? Subsonic chose to sit down by the desk before answering. To put it mildly, Otokage-sama, Kakashi's team is probably the worst one Naruto could encounter when it comes to Konoha. My nickname for it is Team Arrogant. There's also the ones I call Team Odd and Team Lazy, and either of them would be better. Anyway, back to my point, Kakashi's team is made of the type of people Naruto couldn't be around for long. You already know about Kakashi's attitude towards Naruto back before you left Konoha. I doubt he'd recognize him now, but if he did all hell would break loose. For that matter, I'm still not certain how the hell he couldn't figure out who fathered Naruto. You'd think he of all people would connect the dots. Subsonic, you're starting to ramble. Orochimaru pointed out. The spy for Odo took a deep soothing breath. My apologies Otokage-sama. You know how I feel in regards to that man. In regards to his students, I do have some info on them you might find appropriate. They saw they had the Sannin's interest, so they continued. Kakashi's students consist of a civilian fangirl, an heir to the Inuzuka clan, and the last Uchiha in Konoha. Uchiha? Orochimaru asked. Subsonic nodded. Yeah. You remember my report on their massacre years ago. The Sannin nodded. Well, now the last one has come of age and is starting his ninja career. Personally, I hope the smug little bastard gets a reality check, but it's likely he won't from anyone within Konoha. Is he still getting the special treatment? Orochimaru asked. Subsonic had already informed him about the Uchiha's reception from an attitude towards the people of Konoha. The double agent nodded. Sadly, yes. And with an ego bigger than Kami-sama, he still believes he deserves it all just for being born. I once tried to set him straight by telling him he didn't deserve a damn thing just for having a fancy clan name. Would you believe he said he'd get the council to revoke my rank and citizenship for opposing him? Seriously? Orochimaru asked, finding it hard to believe a genin could think that highly of himself. Subsonic nodded again. Completely. Apparently he believes every whim of his has more priority than law, and if someone by chance disagrees he can go tattle to the council and they'll magically make his wish come true. Orochimaru sighed in frustration. Ungrateful spoiled brat. He mumbled. Does that mean he at least respects the council and Hokage if nobody else? I doubt it. Subsonic sadly answered. I get the impression that he respects no one. He's just so used to the council, and to a lesser degree the Hokage, acting in his favor and pouring honey in his ear. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if they rigged his tests in the academy to inflate his ego. And worst of all, I don't think he even suspects they may have an ulterior motive for their favoritism. I see. Now, back on topic, why is this team so bad for Naruto to encounter? Orochimaru. Well, actually a more appropriate term would be annoying than bad. With Naruto's training and backup, he's in no real danger from them under most circumstances. But they would sure annoy the hell out of him. Let's just say that if they don't drive Naruto to do something that may risk a war with Konoha, they themselves would do that to him just for the hell of it. Orochimaru raised an eyebrow. Under most circumstances. Subsonic nodded. Remember Otokage-sama, Kakashi has that Chidori jutsu. Since he favors the Uchiha, whom I've already told you has a superiority complex and agreed for power, what's to stop him from teaching it to him? Or using it himself if he happens to find out who Naruto is? I see your point. If Kakashi recognizes Naruto as Konoha's dead Jinchuriki, he will try to kill him. If the Uchiha sees Naruto's strengths, he will try to take it or kill him to reassert his own status. If the Kunoichi fangirl feels Naruto isn't treating the Uchiha with respect, she will try to kill him. If the Inuzuka heir sees Naruto with several girlfriends, he will just try to one-up him. So for now, unless Kakashi has a motive, they will be mostly a headache for Naruto. Well, if it's any consolation, keep in mind what Naruto can do to them if they push him. Subsonic smiled evilly. Absolutely, that's what I'm looking forward to hearing. And seeing Kushina-san again. Do you know when they'll get back? Sadly no. I suspect soon, but not soon enough to risk you being discovered away unauthorized from Konoha. Damn. Can you contact me when they do show up? Orochimaru thought it over. Normally I wouldn't risk my snake summons being seen in Konoha, so if I can't have Jiraiya tell you, then I'll send you the message as discreetly as possible. Good. That will at least give me the time to get you know what for Kushina-san. Subsonic added, and Orochimaru nodded. The spy checked the clock and rose from their seat. I probably should get heading back. Tell the boy and his mother I said hi. Will do. Bye Otokage-sama. Subsonic said with a bow before putting their mask and hood back on, then heading outside. With more speed than one would expect from them, they disappeared from the hidden village in an instant. Orochimaru sighed, picked up his pen, and went back to his paperwork. I sure hope nothing bad happened to Naruto or the others on their mission. I wouldn't want fuel to be added to my anti-Konoha fire now. Okawa-san, welcome to Otogakure. Naruto told Kushina as they and the others dropped from the sky and landed gently on the ground. Isaribi was clinging to his back just like she had done on the trip to Wave. She let go once they were on the ground. Why is it called that again? Kushina asked. See that cannon on top of the gate? Kurenai pointed out. Sure enough, on top of the protective wall and above the arc of the doorway there was a cannon pointing outwards with a pagoda-like structure around it. Those are the defensive weapons of the village. By channeling chakra into them, they fire off a sonic boom instead of a cannonball, which is quite effective against almost all types of defenses any invaders may have themselves. And because sound travels so quickly, no one can prepare a counter-jutsu quick enough. Kushina thought it over. I bet Minato Koi could have been fast enough. Thinking about her late husband made her want to cry. I don't know how I can live without him. But I must, for my son Sake. I guess that should work. Has it been used before? Not as it's meant to, which is a good thing. Enko answered. Nice to be home. Sasama thought out loud, making the other genin nod. Before they could get inside the town limits, someone dropped from the pagoda to greet them. It was quickly revealed to be Tayuya. Hi guys. Welcome back. Hi Tayuya-chan. Naruto greeted back. The redhead saw that even though Isaribi wasn't clinging onto the blonde anymore, she was still really close to him. She couldn't help but smirk. So he's already found another girl for his little harem. Well, it's not like it should be too hard for him. Wonder, if he still has some room for me. Then she noticed the other redhead. And who are you? I didn't see you leave with them. I'm Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, Naruto's mother. Tayuya sure didn't expect that answer. But, aren't you supposed to be dead? Yes, I should be. But by the grace of Kami-sama I'm not. Tayuya looked back at Naruto to confirm this wasn't some sort of trick. She really liked him and knew that if this was some sort of trick it would hurt him. From the calm look on his face and the way he stood, she judged that this woman really was a relative of his, and that was good enough for her. So she turned back to Kushina. Welcome to Otogakure. My name's Tayuya, a good friend of your son and one of the 5 guards. Where've ya been? Wow, she's watching her language. She must want to make a good impression here. Enko thought. Held prisoner in another country while in a coma. Kushina answered. Tayuya blinked. Fuck, that's a drag. She then turned to Enko and Kurenai. I better not keep you too busy. You do gotta go tell Otokage-sama the details. Kurenai nodded. We'll be on our way then. She then faced Haku, Fu, and Sasama. You 3 can have the rest of the day off. Do as you please. Let's go see your mother, let her know we're fine. Zabuza told Haku, who nodded, knowing her mother was a bit of a worrier. I better go say hi to my family too. Sasama added. Fu simply sighed sadly. Might as well go see how dusty my place is. Rather than live in the Otokage Tower, the green-haired Jinchuriki had her own apartment. She often had visitors, mostly Naruto and her teammates, but it did feel lonely to go there knowing no one would be there waiting for her. Enko faced her own students. Kurenai-chan and I are going to go tell Otokage-sama what happened. So you 3 and take the day off too. Just remember that you're going to be training tomorrow again. Good. I want to go swimming. Want to come, Naruto-kun? Isaribi asked, stretching her arms above her head in an effort to stick her chest out and make him more interested. Maybe in a bit, Isaribi-chan. First I kind of want to help Okawa-san get settled in. He told her. He didn't notice Hinata wink at Isaribi, then the other 3 girls, but Tayuya and Kushina did. Okay then. I'll be in the pool at 5. Be sure to come by. The purple-haired girl told him. I'd love to help you out, Naru-kun, but I should go let Okawa-san and Imouto-chan know I'm back. Hinata told the blonde with a quick kiss on the cheek. Don't take too long, Hina-chan. While the girls were busy and the Junin were informing Orochimaru what all happened in Wave, Naruto and Kushina ran into Tsunade and Shizune. Naruto-chan, I'm glad to see you're okay. The slug Sanin said, the young man. And Kushina. You really are alive. How did you survive? Long story short, I fell into a coma from severe chakra loss. Naruto's chakra with the Kyubis brought me out of it. So why were you in Wave? Shizune asked. Kushina shrugged. Best I can figure is that someone was waiting for me to wake up but wanted everyone else to think I was dead, so they hid me outside Konoha. Tsunade frowned. I don't think I'd be surprised if it was Sensei who did that. Why? Let's just say that man has done some horrible things for reasons I still don't understand. Those things are in fact the whole reason this village was created. Kushina was silent for a moment, then looked down at her son. Naruto, could you give me a moment with Tsunade-sama please? He nodded. Okay. I'll just go get some ramen then come back. Bye Okawa-san. He then walked down the hall and turned around the corner, disappearing from sight. Kushina looked Tsunade right in the eyes. Tell me everything, and I mean everything. Naruto arrived at his favorite ramen stand in Oto, known as Ichiraku's. Apparently the owners, Tuki and Ayame Ichiraku, were the nicest people to him in Konoha outside Orochimaru and Anko. Apparently Tuki and Jiraiya had been friends when younger, but Tuki never felt the life of a shinobi was right for him. Also he was less perverted, much less perverted. Through Jiraiya he became acquaintances of Tsunade and Orochimaru, and during Orochimaru's time with Naruto they became closer friends. When Naruto had been declared dead and Orochimaru gone, the ramen stand family were devastated by the news, and pissed that while they mourned others celebrated without shame. Later, after Hitomi and Hanabi had been relocated, Jiraiya paid them a visit. Seeing their sorrow, he clued them into a new place to do business, and, understanding there was more to the suggestion not being said, Tuki agreed. So Tuki and Ayame decided to move out of Konoha. As civilians with no history of ninja knowledge, there was no law that said they couldn't. However, they still had to be confirmed by a Yamanaka that they weren't taking vital information with them if they left. If they were, then the Hokage could legally prevent them from relocating. Fortunately, Inoichi saw nothing of value or threat to Konoha so they were free to live elsewhere. When they closed their shop and left, Jiraiya said he'd escort them to a village where he needed a new spy to keep an eye on things for him. Sarutobi accepted it. Since then, the Ichirakus had lived in Oto, helping out Naruto like they always had before. And here, they had a bigger restaurant, one complete with tables instead of just a bar to sit at. Hey old man, I'm back. Naruto said as he approached the front bar, his favorite place to eat at. Before he did, he noticed a half-eaten bowl on one of the tables, but no one was there. And since there was only one bowl, the eater was probably here alone. Ayame came out instead of her father. Naruto. Good to see you again. She leaned across the bar to hug him. Good to see you too Ayame-chan. She pulled away and smiled warmly. Want the usual? He nodded. Okay, I'll get started. Want something to drink first? Sure. I'll have a soda. She gave him a soft drink and went back into the kitchen to prepare his food. A door opened and Naruto couldn't help but look to see who showed up. It turned out to be the door to the women's restroom, and the one leaving it was Kin. Hi Kin-chan. Naruto waved to her. The brown-haired girl blinked in surprise to see him here and without Hinata. Naruto-kun. She smiled and hugged him too. Glad you're back. I missed you. I missed you too Kin-chan. He replied. Can I eat with you? There's no point in us eating alone is there? She asked, trying to be as cute as possible. Sure. Then I can tell you all about what I did on my mission. He happily answered. By the time Ayame came out, Kin was seated to Naruto's right slowly finishing off her bowl of shrimp ramen as Naruto described what happened after the battle on the bridge. It took her some time to prepare Naruto's usual of, one of everything. By the time they were done, with their food and their talk, Kin felt happy and wanting to castrate a few Konoha shinobi with some tools not designed for the job. But for now, she was just glad to have what for all basic purposes was a date with the boy she so strongly admired. When they exited the restaurant, Kin gently took a hold of his hands. Hey, Naruto-kun, I've been wondering something. Yes, Kin-chan. I heard that you were ordered to have relationships with 9 women. Is this true? Naruto gulped, and checked to see if anyone was listening. Yes, it is. For the sake of Oto, I have to have children with 9 women. Kin softly smiled and kissed his right cheek before he could object. I just want you to know that I like you a lot, and I'm willing to share. Would you be willing to give me a chance? Naruto blushed. Actually Kin-chan, I would like that. Just let me tell Hina-chan first. I did promise her we'd both work on this. Kin's face warmed and she hugged him again. Thank you Naruto-kun. Meanwhile, Ayame overheard this from inside the restaurant. So the rumor is true. 5 o'clock came and Naruto headed to the pool wearing his orange swim trunks with a black shirt. When he got there, he was so surprised he slipped on the tiles and crashed on his face. Seated around the pool on the edge with their feet in the water, as if waiting for him to show up, were Hinata, Isaribi, Sasama, Fu, Haku, and even Kin and Tayuya were present. And all of them were wearing bikinis in various colors showing off their various bust sizes. And at the moment it was harder to tell who was better endowed, Hinata or Tayuya. The redhead was sure she won that contest if for no other reason than she was older. Naruto-kun. All the girls said in alarm at seeing him fall. He got back up on all fours then sat down before they could get up and check on him. That didn't stop Hinata from confirming his well-being for herself though. I'm okay. I just didn't expect to see this. Are we not pleasing to you, Naruto-kun? Tayuya asked. You're all beautiful. What guy wouldn't react like I did if he saw 7 girls in bikinis waiting for him? Naruto asked back. Someone with 7 girlfriends. Isaribi answered. Or maybe 9. Sasama added. Naruto didn't know what to say. He turned to look at Hinata for some support, but because he was sitting and she was kneeling his face inadvertently got planted right between her breasts. Hinata gasped and blushed but made no actual effort to remove him. As for him, the shock, and softness, made his mind freeze so he couldn't pull out. Kin groaned. Damn girl. When are we going to get our turn with him? I thought you couldn't keep him to yourself anymore. Naruto finally got free and sheepishly looked at the other girls. He was expecting to see them mad at him, not them looking amused instead. Hey Naruto-kun, wanna feel mine too? I bet mine are better than hers. Tayuya said while holding up her breasts and pressing them together. Fu grinned playfully. And what about mine? They're a decent size too. It's not the size that counts. Sasama commented. Mine might be smaller than yours, but I'm sure they're softer. Maybe, but I dare you to tell me you wouldn't appreciate a bigger pair too. Sasama turned away. No comment. Ha! I knew it. Fu exclaimed triumphantly. Seeing Naruto blushed, Hinata whispered into his ear. Naru-kun, remember how you need to find 8 more girls. Well, here are the top candidates that want to be with you and I don't mind either of them as choices. Why don't you ask them? Naruto cleared his throat. Girls, if you're done talking about your chests I've got something you might want to hear. All the girls gave him their attention. I'm sure you've already heard about this from someone else. Well, the thing is, I do need to have a harem of sorts to keep my keke genkes around for the future. Any girl who joins I promise will be treated no less important than Hina-chan will be. But this means all the girls have to be willing to have children with me when we're old enough for it. He saw them all nod in understanding. So I guess what I'm getting at is, how would you all like to see if things can work out for us? While things were looking up for Oto's golden boy, back in Konoha things weren't going so well for the most popular boy there. Before Team 7 left Wave, taking the new Sound of Freedom bridge to get back, Sasuke kept struggling to get his Sharingan working again. But all he accomplished was giving himself a headache. Kakashi took a look but since his medic skills were only the basic first aid ones taught to all ninja, there was nothing he could do. So during the entire trip home to Konoha all Sasuke did was fume in angry silence or comment on how he knew those other shinobi were responsible and he'd kill each and every one of them for this. He was so mad at them he honestly didn't know if he wanted to kill them or Itachi more. Sakura tried to cheer him up by telling him he was still strong and terrific in all aspects. Kiba scoffed and ended up with a fist-induced concussion before he could even vocalize whatever remark he had about it. Needless to say, Sasuke completely ignored Sakura's encouragement and after a while she decided to let him be for now. But she kept her eye on Kiba in case he dare not flatter the emo again. The one thing all 3 genin noticed was that their sensei also seemed to have something serious on his mind. The whole asked him if something was wrong, and he told her it wasn't something she should concern herself with. When they reached the inside of Konoha's walls, Kakashi surprised his students by taking them to their usual meeting spot on the bridge rather than the Hokage's office. Okay everyone, I'm going to go give the Hokage our report and inform him of Sasuke's condition. Sasuke, you go to the hospital and see if someone there can do more than I could. Sakura, Kiba, you two can do as you please but under no circumstances whatsoever can you tell anyone about Sasuke's condition. Why not? The two asked. Kiba did because he figured this might help boost his own reputation if Sasuke was weakened but he himself wasn't. Sakura did because her fangirl mentality made her assume any news about Sasuke was the sort of thing everybody wanted to hear. Because this is a ninja village and ninja don't go around announcing their secrets, strengths, and weaknesses. Kakashi told them forcibly. I don't care what reasons you may have to do otherwise, do not tell, write, draw, use sign language, insinuate, or express in any other possible manner this information, or so help me I will have you kicked out of the ninja forces for the rest of your lives and given to the T&I division. Is that clear? Sakura and Kiba nodded. Good, now I'll be going. He then shushined out of sight. Sasuke headed towards the hospital without another word towards his teammates. Sakura contemplated following him but decided to go home instead. Kiba went home too but decided to take the scenic route. An hour later the council of Konoha was gathered together in their meeting room, called together by Sarutobi. No one knew anything other than he said it was urgent. Kakashi was the only non-member present, or at least he thought he was. Until he saw Jiraiya in the room too. Oh, I am so looking forward to this. The Toad Sannin thought to himself, trying his hardest to mask his eager anticipation. Once Orochimaru sent me that snake that told me what Naruto did to Konoha's pet genin in Wave, I knew I had to be here to hear what would done about it. After all, Subsonic can't hear things like council meetings. At least, not directly. Jiraiya, what brings you here? Homura asked once he entered the room. Sensei asked me to be here. He answered plainly. Everyone please be seated now. Sarutobi told everyone, and paused until everyone attending except Kakashi and Jiraiya did just that. Those two stood simply because they had nowhere to sit. Now, I have some information that is going to make most of you very upset and you'll probably have some loud reactions to it. Keep in mind that I cannot answer any questions you may throw out until you all actually give me the opportunity to continue what I'm telling you. In short, I want no interruptions for this. Are we at risk for war, Hokage-sama? A pink-haired councilwoman asked, inadvertently ignoring the Hokage's desire for no interruptions. You have no idea. Jiraiya kept to himself. No, Haruno-san, not yet at least. And need I remind you to not speak until I open the floor? Sarutobi answered. Kakashi here has informed me that something rather disastrous happened to him and his student Sasuke Uchiha on their recent mission. Councilwoman Natsumi Haruno suddenly burst out of her chair onto her feet. Please tell me he's still able to perform his duties. Jiraiya snapped his fingers. What part of, no interrupting, did you not understand? Be seated, Haruno-san. Sarutobi told her. Kakashi, why don't you tell everyone what you told me? Kakashi appeared to steel himself for this revelation. On our mission to Wave to assist a bridge builder, we came across a group of ninja from an unknown village or group. They wore Hitai Atesh but the symbol on them looked like a music note. He momentarily paused to see if anyone would voice any knowledge on that symbol. The group consisted of mostly just kunoichis with only 2 males present. One was an blonde boy with an orange jumpsuit, whom I will say more about later, and the other was the missing nin Zabuza Momochi. The Zabuza Momochi? Shikaku Nara asked. No, the other Zabuza Momochi. You know, the one that bakes cookies for a living. Jiraiya sarcastically thought. None other. Kakashi replied to the shadow user. He actually did very little fighting. I did face off against him before we reached our destination, but one of his allies helped him escape. I saw him again later but it appears he and his group were hired by another citizen of Wave to help them too. It was the blonde boy who proved the most troubling however. How so? Sume Inuzuka asked. The first thing I feel I ought to mention is that he may have some sort of Kekkei Genkei that allows him to manipulate metal. I saw him use metal the same way the Shodai Hokage was said to use wood. He paused to let that sink in for everyone. And the second thing is that, and I know how hard this is to believe, but apparently, Kushina Uzumaki is alive and she claims the boy is her son. Everyone gasped at hearing that, even Jiraiya, but he did it for different reasons. Part of it was for show, and the other part was that he didn't know Kushina had revealed herself and her connection to Naruto to anyone. This meant that now Sarutobi might figure out Naruto was still alive. Kushina Uzumaki. That skank. Natsumi asked in disgust. I thought she died with Yondaime-sama and their child the day the Kyuubi attacked. Jiraiya glared at her. Need I remind you that, That skank, as you put it, was one of this village's most renowned kunoichi and someone my student greatly respected and loved. So, doesn't mean I respect her. Natsumi responded. She probably trapped him into a relationship due to her pregnancy. Kakashi, can you describe the child Kushina claimed as her own? Sarutobi asked with a curious glint in his eyes that Jiraiya understood all too well. Not much to say. He wore an orange and black outfit that would be a horrible choice for any person, ninja or not, to wear. He had blonde hair, blue eyes, average height, but didn't really look like Kushina-san at all. My guess is that she cheated on sensei with someone else and had him. Maybe all this time she's been raising him somewhere else. That sounds a lot like Naruto, but surely he's been dead for 10 years. Then again, I thought Kushina was dead too. Does this mean the Kyuubi Jinchuriki is still alive but affiliated with another village? This absolutely cannot be allowed. The old Hokage thought to himself. Kakashi, I believe you said some disastrous happened to you and your student. Jiraiya commented, before Sarutobi's train of thought could go much further. Oh yeah, about that, I don't know how they did this, for the life of me I can't figure it out, but someone in this unknown group severely weakened me and Sasuke by. Kakashi then lifted up his Hitai-8, revealing his Sharingan eye was now a normal black pupil. Removing the abilities of our Sharingans. For a brief moment no one said a word. They all knew that Kakashi had gotten his Sharingan due to chance and circumstance, and since he was not an Uchiha his chakra system was not designed to incorporate a Dujutsu. This was why he always felt extreme chakra exhaustion after using it and why he couldn't turn it off. Only now did they realize the flip side of the situation, that, for that exact same reason given, in the event his Sharingan ever was turned off, he wouldn't be able to turn it back on. You mean to tell us? Natsumi started to ask, only to finally remember the Hokage's orders before she finished. Kakashi nodded. Yes. On our mission Sasuke managed to awaken his Sharingan. Then somehow someone took it away from him. During the trip back home, Sasuke tried several times to reactivate it only to get migraines from the effort. My diagnosis of him showed nothing physically wrong with him and I saw no inhibitor seals. But in any case, I ordered him to go to the hospital for further examinations. Now I will open the floor for discussion on this. Sarutobi said, then faced the pink-haired member. Haruno-san, for your continued interruptions, I am ordering you to let someone else speak first. Jiraiya-sama, have you encountered anyone fitting these descriptions in your travels? Kaharu asked. Jiraiya pretended to think it over. Can't say I have. But if these guys can actually render Kekkei Genkai obsolete, then I suspect Konoha is at a great disadvantage to them. I agree. Shibi Aburame spoke up. I hate to think what would happen if someone from my clan fell victim to such a thing. In that case Jiraiya-sama should go seek this group out and kill them all. A civilian member stated. Are you serious? The Sannin asked. Are you saying you can't? Jiraiya leaned against the wall. If the target was small in numbers then I would have little problem, especially considering I'm not dependent on any Kekkei Genkai. However, if this group Kakashi mentioned is part of a village, even one as small as Hoshi, then it's not as easy as you make it out to be. And why not? Natsumi asked. Because I'm well known across the elemental nations. Why do you think I use a spy network rather than just doing the spying myself? I can't just go up to any village. Sure, I could sneak around for a bit, and even if I could find the person or people who can do such a thing, I couldn't eliminate them all without being noticed. I'm not Itachi Uchiha after all. Sarutobi nodded. But you could at least possibly find the base or village of this threat. In theory yes, in time I could. But if I do, the first thing I'm going to do is try to get an audience with Kushina. If she is indeed still alive I'd like to hear how she survived and where she's been all this time and why. Don't forget to check out this child she claims as her own. Sarutobi added. You would insist on that, you monster. Jiraiya thought. If I can I will. In the meantime, what shall we do about the Uchiha? Danzo asked. Isn't it obvious? If we for some reason cannot get his Sharingan working again then we must collect sperm so we can still keep the bloodline alive. Natsumi. And what do we do about the boy in that case? Inoichi Yamanaka asked. If he has no Sharingan then he's no good to us anymore. Kaharu responded. All the shinobi members frowned. Need I remind you Udatane-san that the vast majority of people who work for this village also lack that dujutsu. Your words could be interpreted to mean you believe only Uchihas have worth here, therefore our own clans are unimportant. Hizashi Hyuga, the acting head for his clan, told her. What I meant was that we've put in a lot of effort to keep the last of the Uchiha satisfied within our village, and I hate the idea that all our effort was for naught and we have to wait longer to get the results we desired. Kaharu replied. With any luck the problem can be solved, and if not Jiraiya can seek out Tsunade to assist. Sarutobi told everyone. Jiraiya laughed. You don't really believe that, do you, sensei? You remember her last message to you, don't you? Tell her we demand her services. Danzo sternly stated, stomping the bottom of his cane on the floor in an effort to emphasize his seriousness and/or status. Or what? Seriously, what can you do to motivate her when she refuses? You don't honestly expect she'll bow to you just because you throw your weight around. She has the strength to back up her refusal. I'm sorry, but asking Tsunade-chan to do that is a lost cause and I will not put in the effort for it. Jiraiya firmly told everyone. You dare defy us? Homura angrily asked. Yes, I dare. What are you going to do about it? Fire me. You can't, only the Hokage can fire the shinobi. Send me to Ibiki. How am I going to find out who these music note ninja are and where they are if you won't let me leave? We can forbid the stores to sell your smut books. Kaharu claimed. Jiraiya shrugged. So, I can think of at least 3 people in this room that would oppose such a motion. And even if you did, I can always sell the books directly and make more of a profit that way with no middleman. Enough. Now, Jiraiya will not be reprimanded for his attitude, he will be allowed to continue his spy network with this new target in mind. We will do what we can to solve this mess with the Uchiha, and there will be no attempt to remove Jiraiya's books from the marketplace. Meeting dismissed. Sarutobi told everyone. Good. Now, if you don't mind, I need some research for my next book. Jiraiya said before shushing away. Sasuke had to spend a full day in the company of every medic Nin Konoha had to offer. Only now did the council members wish they had taken Tsunade's request for specific medic Nin training seriously. But without that in her, they had to settle for people who were half as good as her at best. He was most livid when they tried to collect sperm, saying it was part of the physical, and he adamantly resisted it. So he had to be sedated for them to get anything from him. The next day he was summoned to the council room to attend a meeting with both councils and the Hokage. Even Kakashi was there too. Maybe they'll be able to get me my Sharingan back. Then I can go kill Itachi and whoever took it from me in the first place. Please be seated, Sasuke Uchiha. Sarutobi told the genin once he and the others arrived. Sasuke did, and he soon got a bad feeling. This was the first time he was in the council's presence and no one smiled at him. Generally he didn't get that from the shinobi side, but there had always been several on the civilian side that looked pleased he was present. But now, there was no one who looked like they felt wiping his ass was a privilege. Sasuke Uchiha, our best medics have examined you from top to bottom, and spent all of last night attempting to understand and correct the problem placed upon you. However, sadly no results have been acquired. That can't be. Surely someone here can do something. Sasuke said. There is only one person we know who could possibly do anything. Sarutobi started, but Sasuke cut him off quickly. Then go get him and bring him here at once. I need my power back. Sarutobi held up his hand to silence the genin. We can't. For one, she is currently unlocated, so getting help couldn't possibly be instantaneous. And for another, she is actually from the rival clan of your own, so motivating her to aid you will not be easy. I am an Uchiha. I demand she do something about this. She should be honored to be of use to me. Sarutobi shook his head. Did you not hear me? I said her clan is your clan's rivals, the Senju. Meaning she has absolutely no reason to want you to be well. Then order her to do it anyway. Why should I care if her idiot clan has some problem with mine? I demand I get my power back so I can kill my brother and those other guys too. Sasuke, you shouldn't insult those that can help you. Kakashi told his student. The Uchiha just frowned. I am an elite, thus I can insult anyone beneath me. So you, a mere genin who's only been on one real mission, Think you're above a Sannin who has years of experience and is qualified to become a Hokage? Hizashi asked. Elite means second to no one, so yes. Sasuke answered. Sarutobi gave his two old teammates and Danzo disapproving looks, because he knew they were the primary ones who filled this boy's head with such egotistical nonsense. I hope you three now realize you've inflated HS ego a bit too much. You are not the only one who has talent and strength in this village, young man. Inoichi told him. And without your previous Sharingan, you won't even have status anymore. What the hell does that mean? Sasuke asked. Sarutobi cleared his throat for this. It means that by Uchiha clan law, your own family's law, any Uchiha who is incapable of wielding their Sharingan for whatever reason there is, be it genetic or forced onto their person, cannot be considered a member of said clan and is denied all that full-fledged members are entitled to. This includes status, wealth, property, and clan jutsu. Sasuke paled for a moment, then frowned again and rose from his chair, fists clenched. You can't do this. I am the only Uchiha in Konoha. Everything my clan owned now rightfully belongs to me and me alone. We're not the ones doing this, your clan's laws are. The law that was created by your grandfather and enforced by your own father. Sarutobi told him. If you insist on using your heritage as leverage, then be prepared for the fallout that comes with it. Sume told the genin. Homura spoke next. We are sorry, Sasuke, but it must be done. Until you someday regain the Sharingan, you cannot be considered a true Uchiha. You can still use the name, but you will no longer have access to your family's wealth and jutsu collection. And in the event you never regain your Kekkei Genkai, you won't be allowed access until you sire a child that does show access to the Sharingan. Fine, then get those stupid brainless bitches that fawn over every move I make. It's about damn time they have some use to me. Sasuke said. Inoichi frowned. You would dare use the girls that admire you just to quicken your rise back to power. Have you no feelings for your fans? Ino is not going to like hearing this. I am an Avenger. I must kill those that try to worsen my own life. And I need all the power of the Uchiha to do that. If the quickest way to regain that power is what you said, so be it. I need every bit of power I can get my hands on, and I'll do whatever it takes to get it as soon as possible. I absolutely cannot afford to wait. Don't the feelings of the girls mean anything to you? Shuza asked. Sasuke just scoffed. Why should I care about a bunch of whiny-ass bimbos? They're just there to do a job and make things easier for me. Plain and simple. One of the civilian members, the father of one of the Uchiha's anonymous fangirls, glared at him. Well, if that's your attitude, then why should any girl help you that way? Sasuke smirked confidently. I am the last Uchiha clan law or not. Therefore I can invoke the CRA and the girls will have to do it. Sarutobi sent him some ki to regain his attention. While you are correct that you can invoke the CRA for genetic reasons alone if nothing else, you're forgetting two things about it. Like what? Sasuke said, sitting back down now. For one, that the girls cannot be forced to take part in it. CRA law says that participation must be 100% voluntary, and if anyone has reason to suspect otherwise, the girls can be put under a mindwalk and genjutsu test to ensure their actions are not forced and no form of rape occurred. If it's discovered they are forced, then the CRA is revoked and the invoker and/or manipulator is arrested for life. Also, the invoker is not allowed to participate in missions or be considered an active ninja for the sake of reducing the risk of losing the genes. In short, Sasuke, you cannot demand or force any girls to have your kids, and you will not be allowed to leave the village or fight anyone, including Itachi, so you don't die before we confirm the Sharingan was passed on. Kakashi clarified. Sasuke rose to his feet angrily again. You can't do this. I must kill Itachi. Then don't invoke the CRA. Shikaku told him. Like it or not, you have only two choices. You can either use the CRA and have immediate access to your clan's property again, but you can't do anything with it except help your kids. Or you can wait and pray for your Sharingan to come back on its own and train to kill your brother the hard way. There is simply no other option. Actually, there is only one option for Sasuke here. Sarutobi told everyone. I'm sorry if I gave everyone here the wrong impression about what can be done for him. I was simply saying what could happen if he did invoke the CRA. However, due to medical reasons he cannot. What do you mean? Kaharu asked. According to the medics, Sasuke is now as sterile as a surgeon's tool. It is physically impossible for him to sire any offspring period. Therefore the CRA cannot apply to him. Kakashi, you might to get yourself tested too. Everyone was shell-shocked to hear this. Then Natsumi spoke up. You mean tell me that the last Uchiha is not only incapable of using his Sharingan, but is also incapable of passing it down to the next generation? Sarutobi nodded. Yes. It appears that the Uchiha line will die with Sasuke right here. Sasuke looked livid. I swear, I will kill whoever did this to me. Sarutobi folded his hands together and rested his chin on them. So basically Sasuke, you cannot invoke the CRA as there would be no point to it, and by your clan's law, you cannot have access to anything under Uchiha claim until you somehow regain your Kekkei Genkai. In short, you are no longer an elite, but a normal genin shinobi. I am an elite. End of story. Oh, shut the hell up already. You're not an elite anything. One of the council members told him irritably. You really think you're so special just because of your family name? Big deal. What have you personally done that's so great? Sasuke thought it over, trying to come up with an irrefutable answer. I was my class, Rookie of the Year. That may have mattered back when you were in the academy, but out in the real world it doesn't matter. There you were in controlled situations with no real threats to your safety. Out on actual missions there will be things you're not prepared for and there is always the risk of death. The elites are the ones who make it through and live to see another day. Sume told him. The elites are the survivors and the succeeders. Shikaku concurred, much to the emo's chagrin. In short, you are now no better than any other shinobi that's without a Kekkei Genkai or clan and you will be treated as such until further notice. Koharu sadly told him. Sasuke was pissed. The people who had always catered to his needs were now telling him his only sense of self was now obsolete. You cannot do this to me. If you don't like it, then by all means resign. But it won't change anything. At least if you stay a ninja you can still try to accomplish your goals. Sarutobi told him, then narrowed his eyes. But let me make this perfectly clear Sasuke, until further notice, you are no different than anyone else. Until you prove otherwise, you are on the same level as all other genin without clans. Which actually makes you one of the lower ranking ones since most genin here do come from clans. Hizashi added. Sasuke was mentally on a precipice. He simply couldn't comprehend that everything he knew about himself was being thrown out the window. No one could, of course, but for him this was too much to take in. You can't do this. This village needs me. Why? Without your Sharingan, or the ability to pass it on, what good are you to us, boy? Danzo asked coldly, making Sasuke freeze. The fact of the matter is, boy, that your Sharingan is the only thing about you that made you special in the first place. Had the Uchiha not been wiped out by your brother, you would have just been another academy student to us. Your brother's actions are the only reason we've ensured things have worked out in your favor all the time. Such as discounts at all stores and your rent, extra credit on your grades, and more access than normally permitted to genin for jutsus. Sasuke looked like he wanted to throw up. That can't be. I'm the best in this village. You've been telling me that for years. Didn't you ever ask yourself why? Danzo asked. We did so because you're of use to us. Or at least you were. Danzo-san, maybe you should stop right there. Koharu suggested. Why? What's the point of hiding it from him anymore? Danzo asked, then faced Sasuke again. We pampered you because you were our only hope for keeping the Sharingan alive in this village and none other. Nothing more. But now that you can't and most likely never will, you're going to have to live on like everyone else you're so certain is beneath you. Face it, you're nobody now. Sasuke's mind collapsed, making his body go limp. All this time, I thought they really thought I was superior. But they were just using me the whole time. Am I really no better than anyone else without my eyes? Danzo turned to face the Hokage. Sarutobi, is it possible that we can somehow bring Itachi back to the village so we can use him to keep the Sharingan alive? This brought Sasuke back to reality. What? You'd really bring him back here for that? But I need to kill him for what he did. Shut up, kid. One of the civilian members told him. I agree with Danzo-sama. We must do whatever it takes to keep the Sharingan from going extinct. If Itachi Uchiha is now our only option, then I say we do what we must. even if it means offering him a full pardon for his actions. We shall discuss that later. For now, meeting adjourned. Sarutobi declared. Everyone started to leave the room but Sasuke made no effort to go anywhere. Kakashi approached him. Come on Sasuke, let's take you home. His student rose to his feet and kept to himself the entire walk back to his apartment. I just hope he doesn't do anything rash. The next time I see those music note ninja, I will kill them all. Sasuke promised himself. Back in Oto, another round of bad news was on the minds of some people. Kushina was currently in a break room at Oto's hospital, after having a physical to confirm the extent of her health. Tsunade and Shizune were sitting at a table with her, taking a break from their jobs to keep her company. Tsunade had a small bottle of sake in hand while Shizune had some green tea and a plain bagel with some jelly on it. Kushina had no appetite or thirst at the moment. Have you let it sink in yet? Shizune asked before taking a bite of her bagel. Kushina sighed. Yeah, and it makes me sick to my stomach. The other day Tsunade had informed Kushina of everything concerning Konoha and Naruto. While he had told her some important things back in Wave, he had not told her everything. Tsunade filled in the gaps. Things like how Sarutobi was lax in ensuring Naruto's overall safety, how Orochimaru had to fake his and several other kids' deaths to get them away safely, what happened involving the Hyugas and even the Uchiha massacre, and what Sarutobi did in regards to Gaara too. I know what you mean. Tsunade said. I'm sorry I wasn't there to help sooner. You weren't scheduled to go into labor for another week or so and Minato didn't send me a message or anything. When I did send a slug to talk to Minato after the Kyuubi attack, when it came back it told me Sensei was the Hokage and all three of you were dead. You've got to understand that I had no reason to mistrust Sensei back then. I do understand, and I don't blame you Tsunade. But what? Tsunade asked. This doesn't make sense. How could this all happen? Everyone knew Minato-kun and I were about to have a baby. Didn't anyone ask where Naruto came from? Didn't anyone notice the resemblance? Just who started the shit in my son's life and why did they do that? Kushina asked on the verge of tears. Tears of sorrow or anger no one knew. I don't know. I can only guess. The slug Sanin answered with regret. Kabuto knocked on the doorway to get the women's attention. Sorry to interrupt you, but Orochimaru-sama requests your presence in the council room right away Tsunade-sama. Kushina-san, you can come too as your input would be appreciated. Tsunade rose from her seat. I'll be there shortly. Any idea what it's about? Kabuto shook his head. Nope, sorry. I do know I've got to attend too since Jiraiya-sama won't be available. What about your genin team? Shizune asked. I've got them doing a border patrol routine with Kitamaru-san. That should occupy them for the time being. Kabuto said before turning around and gesturing for them to follow. In 15 minutes Tsunade, Kabuto, and Kushina were inside the council room in the Otokage Tower. Shizune stayed at the hospital to keep up her duty and because technically she hadn't been invited to come along. Tsunade saw everyone on the shinobi side was there with Orochimaru seated in the most dominant position in both seats next to him and the civilian side empty. Kabuto took Jiraiya's seat and she took her own. She also happened to notice the presence of another person, who wasn't an official member of the council but belonged in this room no less. Subsonic. What brings you here? She asked the masked spy. There was something I just had to see. Subsonic said before removing the mask and smiling at Kushina. Hello Kushina-san. Long time no see. Kushina gasped, and said Subsonic's real name in awe and disbelief, as if uncertain they were really there before her. Yeah, it's really me. Trust me, I'm more surprised to see you than you are to see me. What are you doing here? Kushina asked. Let's just say I was one of the few people in Konoha not blinded to your son. I've been helping him and Orochimaru-sama for years by keeping an eye on Konoha for years since they left. By the way, I have this for you. Subsonic then pulled out a storage scroll and unsealed the contents. Out popped a sheathed sword. Luckily I managed to get a hold of this before whoever took you away got to it. I've also been holding onto your husband's jutsu scrolls too for when Naruto's ready to learn them. Kushina took her sword and held it close to her. It had been one of the few mementos from her homeland. Thank you. No sweat. Anything for an old friend. Orochimaru coughed. letting them know to save the rest of their reunion for later. They bowed and let him speak. Everyone, for years we have discussed the possibility of having to engage Konoha or Kiri in combat. We have several reasons too. Konoha has done some rather horrible things to the least deserving of all people, and Kiri tried to kill off a good portion of this village's population. Both of their actions led to our village's creation, and deep down we've always harbored the desire to strike back at them. I've called you together to inform you we may have our chance to get our pound of flesh soon if we choose to take it. What do you mean? One of the council members, the Fuma representative, asked. This one was Sasama's uncle Ichigo Fuma, and he was dressed in a black shirt with blue pants and sported his orange hair much like Naruto did. He usually didn't look too friendly, but he was a good person to be around generally. When it comes to a direct attack, we do have the element of surprise. However, both villages have the home field and number advantage. We could put up a good first wave attack and do some damage, but once that ended we'd have to retreat or risk total annihilation. So the best option for maximizing damage in such an event would be to have agents already within the village limits when the big forces strike. The problem, however, is getting such agents in place. Orochimaru explained. But now that problem can be solved. He continued with a smile. The Chunin exams will be coming to Konoha shortly, and what better chance would we have to get some of our forces within Konoha's walls without fuss? Ichigo Fuma raised his hand. If I may, Otokage-sama. Orochimaru nodded his approval. There are a few key figures you failed to mention. If I remember correctly, a village needs an invite for their teams to even participate in the exams, and Konoha doesn't even know we exist. And also, if we by chance did get an invite, the only agents we could send in are a few genin and their junin instructors. Is that really enough to make it worth it? And if it is, when would they strike? I'm glad to see you've thought this out, Ichigo-san. Orochimaru replied. Yes, some genin and fewer junin are the best we can send in, at first. Assuming they make it to the final round, where the village leaders are permitted admission to see them compete, I can get there without suspicion, and so can Jiraiya and Tsunade. I can also bring the Sound 5 with me as guards so they'd be directly inside too. Does that sound acceptable? It sounds good to me, Otokage-sama. But what about the invite? The Kagaya representative asked. This one wasn't directly related to Kimimaro but was the oldest woman in the clan. Her name was Kaide Kagaya, a short woman with wrinkly pale skin and long white hair in a low ponytail but enough hop in her step to make her look 10 years younger when active. I received a message from the Kazekage saying his village was just invited to participate in the Chunin exams. He said he's anxious to do some damage to Konoha for what they tried to do to him and his son years ago now that his children are old enough to do so, and he wanted to know if we'd like to do the same at the same time. So you're saying that Kazekage-sama has already decided to assault Konoha? Kaide Kagaya asked. I'm not entirely certain. That is a possibility, but I get the impression that if we were to decline this opportunity, Kazekage-sama would settle for spilling some leaf blood during the tests. If we do assist him, then he'll aim for more. Orochimaru answered. But still, what about our invite? The Momochi representative, Haku's mother Naomi Momochi, asked. She was the representative instead of Zabuza because she was the actual ice wielder of the duo and he was more suited for field work anyway. Orochimaru grinned at her. Simple. Kazekage-sama said if we want, he'll tell the Hokage that he'll accept the invite on the condition our village gets to participate too. I know that means we'll be revealing ourselves, but the time for hiding may be past anyway. At least our location will remain a secret. So what you're saying is that we have the opportunity to do some damage to Konoha along with our ally, but we should vote on if this is something we really should do. Tsunade asked. Yes, exactly. The Snake Sanin told his teammate. I'll open the floor to everyone. Give your views on if we should or shouldn't do this. What exactly do we have to gain from such an act? The Onagumo representative, Hideki Onagumo asked. He was Kidomaro's father and looked like gray-haired version of his son with a beard much like Asuma possessed. He was missing the top of his right arms, an old wound from an earlier fight in his reckless youth. For one, we get to see what our genin can do during the exams and give them an honest promotion to the rank for once. Orochimaru answered. And we can gain a sense of satisfaction in giving Konoha a black eye at least. Plus, think of this as practice for if we ever need to do something similar to Kiri or someone attacks us. Heck, the only reason we don't focus on attacking that village is we and our allies can't get any armies to it without them becoming aware. If I may, Otokage-sama. Kaide spoke up. We have enjoyed nearly a decade without unnecessary conflict. I for one do not wish to see that come to an end and risk invasion for the sake of spiting a village. Aside from your personal reasons, what other motivation do you have for wanting this? The main reason I bring this up is because we won't get another chance like this for years. If endangering the lives of several children in our care and believing those kids deserved it isn't reason enough to retaliate, what is? Orochimaru answered. Other wars and invasions in the past have been started for less. Kabuto pointed out. Would Iwa assist? Ichigo asked. We'll have to contact them after Suna to find out. The snake Sanin replied. Personally, I agree with Otokage-sama. Subsonic spoke up. We have a good chance here to administer belated justice to Konoha. I think the Yondaime Hokage would agree something needs to be done to the people who spit on his sacrifice. Hurting their star genin was a good start, but it's hardly enough. If my husband knew what my son and Tsunade-sama told me, he'd do something about it. Kushina sadly added. By the way Kushina-san, I have a theory on that you may want to hear. Subsonic told the redhead. What is it? She curiously asked. I've often asked myself why no one ever saw the resemblance between your husband and your son, especially someone like Kakashi who should have noticed it immediately. My guess is that someone used a genjutsu on the majority of the village to prevent them from being able to. It's the only logical option. Since Otokage-sama and I were elsewhere for a time when Naruto was born, we escaped the casting. The question is who and why. Kushina was stunned silent. That explains why Kakashi acted the way he did back in Wave. Tsunade spoke up. If you're so certain about that subsonic, why have you not tried to break such a genjutsu? Why would I? I couldn't prove it and still can't. It's only speculation. Since I don't know who cast the genjutsu, although I do have ideas, even if I did break it that would only bring attention to myself that would reveal things I can't reveal yet. Not to mention there's no point without Naruto there to remind them of everything they've done and show them all the similarities. Without him there to help their minds put two and two together, they wouldn't change at all. I see. But that theory sounds very fitting. Is it possible the Sandaime Hokage was the one who cast it? He was after all the one who let Naruto's Jinchuriki status known but not his heritage and he was the one who created the Iwa claim to justify it all. Tsunade asked. He is one of my suspects. But if he was the guilty one then why didn't he affect Orochimaru-sama too? Subsonic asked. No one answered. I think it was someone who never actually had much contact with him. But who could get in touch with almost everyone in power in Konoha without much fuss and have reason to make Naruto's life hell? That's why I suspect Sensei. Tsunade added. Maybe he didn't affect Orochimaru because someone had to be around to ensure Naruto grew up. And I think he could have done that to the village so that when Naruto got older he'd see that almost everyone hated him but the old man was one of the few that showed him compassion so he'd feel compelled to do whatever it took to please the old man and stay on his good side. That's what I've always thought was his idea. Remember this man would let the Hyugas kill Hitomi because she found something he didn't want found. He then emitted from everyone in the room at the thought of one person doing this to a newborn and an expecting mother. That old man and that village have a lot to answer for. All in favor of sending a few teams for the exams? Orochimaru asked. Hiruzen Sarutobi sat in his office reading the scroll he just got from Takamaru, Suna's messenger hawk to Konoha. Hokage-sama, in regards to your invite to send some genin to the upcoming Chunin exams, I have this to say. Only one of my teams has been selected for taking it, which hardly seems enough to me. To make up for the lack of numbers, I request an extended invitation to another group I know. This is a small village not unlike Hoshi or Kusa, it is called Oto. They are a recently started village and closer to my country so I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't heard of them yet. I would like to see how their genin fare in the exams as well as my own. I will inform the leader if you agree to my conditions. If not, then I will wait for the next one. Yondaime Kazekage. Sarutobi stroked his beard. A new village. Could they be the ones that incapacitated the Uchiha? I think I would like to see what their genin can do within my reach. Hanabi was walking down the halls of the Otokage Tower looking for Naruto. She had something on her mind. What would he say? I thought it over while he was away and I don't see any holes in it. Even Okawa-san agreed it was a smart idea. But all I need is his permission. Nichan's too, but she's easier to convince. The youngest Byakugan wielder in Oto reached his room and knocked on the door. He didn't answer, so she knocked again. Naruto-kun. There was no answer again, prompting her to press her ear against the door. She heard nothing. Where is he? Stepping back from the door, she crossed her arms and closed her eyes in thought. Maybe he's training with Nichan again. I thought he would be on break by now. Guess I was wrong. She opened her eyes. Byakugan. Veins beside her eyes bulged and a tiny visible pupil appeared, allowing her to see all around her. She noticed two key things. The first was that her sister and her team were indeed training in one of the forested training grounds Oto had available. This particular one wasn't that far from the tower. The second was that Tayuya of the Sound 5 was inside the building and heading in her direction, carrying an envelope in her right hand. I wonder what she's doing. Hanabi said as she deactivated her dujutsu and walked towards where she saw the redhead. It only took going around 2 corners to reach her. Hi Tayuya ne-san, are you off duty? Not really. I just got back from a long pain in the ass delivery job to Suna through the fucking hot desert. I've got something to tell Otokage-sama and give this to Naruto-kun too. She answered as she held up the envelope. Then I'm going to take a nice bath and relax. I'm not a big fan of hot dry places. It was a rather odd thing to anyone else at first glance, but these two girls actually got along pretty well. They first met about 2 years ago when Naruto had to watch the young girl as a favor to Hitomi and brought her to Ichiraku's and then to bring to Yuya her own lunch. The Sound 5's lone female member made sure to keep her tongue somewhat in check around the girl, but fortunately Hanabi never paid it much mind when she slipped. It wasn't like she didn't hear that language from others too. And like Naruto, Hanabi often thought Tayuya had a good sense of humor. What's in it? I don't know, but I do know it came from the Kage's daughter. Tayuya said. Hanabi smiled coyly. Think she's interested in our favorite blonde. Tayuya grinned back. I wouldn't doubt it. They have been pen pals for a while. Hanabi looked right at the envelope and was overcome with curiosity. She activated her Byakugan and read what was inside it. Dear Naruto-kun. I'm glad you finally became a genin. Maybe someday we'll be able to go on a joint mission together. I know Gaara would like that, and I think Kankuro too even though he denies it. I know I'd love to see you use your talents in a real fight and maybe go flying with you one day since we both can now. So you really need to get 9 girls pregnant for your village. Weird, and all this time I thought your sister was joking when she told me that years ago. Yeah, she told me when I first visited your village and we were kids, and naive girl that I was, I toyed with the idea of being one of them. Don't think wrong of me, we were both kids and you were cute and fun to be with, but now that we're older we can see how difficult it would be for us to have a relationship like that. I'm not saying you're not worth it, you are one of my good friends and always will be. But unless I move to Oto or you move to Suna, how would it work? You can't come here and I can't break away from my own duties unless Tusan lets me. But enough of nice fantasies. If you want my advice on what to do about the girls, my first recommendation is to know about their skills and talents. Any child you sire will learn from the mother too, so the mother's abilities should be compatible with the Kekkei Genkai you pass down to them. Let's say hypothetically you and I did have a child together. With what I can teach our child too, I'd be a good candidate for mothering any child who inherited your gravity control, but probably not any others. Again, this is just hypothetical. I'm glad to hear you want to treat each of the girls you will accept as special loved ones and not just baby factories or sex dolls. Men like you are hard to find. It's a shame there's so much distance between us. But I'm happy for you. Write me again if you need to talk later. Tamari Subaku. Wow. Hanabi muttered when she rested her Kekkei Genkai. Wow, what? Tayuya asked. She wants him bad. You have to read between the lines to see it, but the desire is clear as crystal. But she's not expecting to be accepted, so she's covering it up. Hanabi explained. So that sassy blonde wants to be with my blonde. Tayuya thought. Well, Naruto-kun does like her, and getting her here should be manageable for our village leaders to agree on. I don't see why not. I guess we found our eighth girl. Hanabi arched an eyebrow. Judging from the look on your face, I'm guessing you're in favor of the idea. And you're not. Hanabi looked down. And no, if she makes Naruto-kun happy, that's what matters. But, Tayuya asked, sensing there was more being unsaid here. But, Hanabi added with a small kick at nothing on the floor. How many more girls does Naruto-kun need? Tayuya looked confused and surprised to hear that question. Not counting the Suna girl, too. What if she does get accepted later on? Why? Don't tell me you want to join Hana-chan. Hanabi gave the redhead eye contact again, and the older woman could see the little girl was on the verge of tears. I know what it sounds like, but can't you and the others at least hear me out before you dismiss me? Tayuya got down on her knees to make the girl feel more comfortable now. Okay, Hana-chan, tell me what's on your mind. The former Hyuga, now named Hibiki, sighed before answering the flutist's question. I'm a kid, I know, and that's why I wouldn't be a first choice for helping Naruto-kun like you or Nichan would. But, if I was closer to your age I would be, wouldn't I? Yeah, Tayuya said, stretching out the word. After all, the reason Naruto-kun's allowed 9 girls in the first place is so he can have several kids that will go on to create some clans for Oto. And no offense, you're just too young to help out in that way. But I could be old enough with Naruto-kun's age control. Hanabi pointed out. Tayuya opened her mouth to counter her claim, but no sound emitted once the words regestured in her mind. Well, damn, gotta give you that one. But seriously now, do you really want to end your childhood so quickly and go through puberty right away? It's not a pleasant experience, no fucking way. Not to mention you'll still be 10 years old up here. She finished while poking Hanabi in the forehead. Tayuya ne-san, if you were me, what would you do? The redhead didn't answer right away. Most of the reason was because she was afraid of just how to answer that. Another part was that she remembered a bit about herself back when she was 10 years old too. Tayuya wouldn't call her childhood bad, just lonely. She had the 2 standard parents that loved her and raised her, but they were always busy during the day working as civilians. They once had been ninja native to the country before Oto was established, but after a long battle with an old rival, which they won but at the cost of their home, her parents just lost all their motivation for being ninja anymore. The main reason they moved to Oto when it was created was for a place to retire but not feel disconnected from the general population. What better place than where many others were ninja too? The thing was that even though they decided to retire, their daughter wanted to start her own ninja career. Her parents didn't stop her, but they did warn her it would be tough and exhausting. So far the biggest problem at the time had been that few girls in Oto actually wanted to be kunoichi. Tayuya wasn't the only one, but she did feel far outnumbered by the boys. That was part of the reason she developed her trademark attitude, to feel less excluded with her comrades and be taken more seriously despite being one girl amongst many boys. Too bad some of them like that fat-ass Jirobo thought that wasn't such a good idea. In the end Tayuya had gotten her wish and become one of the strongest kunoichi in all of Land of Rice. She was probably on par with Shizune by now, or at least Anko. But the road to that destination had been lonely with few friends and many evenings with her parents out of the home. Naruto was probably the first real friend she had ever really had, and she valued that bond more than anything. So back then if she was given the offer to be an important part of his life when she was younger, at the cost of growing up quicker than normal, would she accept? For Naruto, she would. However, she and Hanabi were different people. The young girl was rarely lonely and never had to develop defense mechanisms to fit in better amongst her peers. So even though they both liked the same boy, the odds were that Hanabi's affection wasn't quite on the same level as Tayuya's was. Yeah, Hana-chan. That's if you were me. But you're not me, you know. You're you, so shit ain't exactly the same for us. I know, but I like Naruto-kun just like the rest of you. Why can't I be given the chance to at least be considered? I just need to be a few years older. If it works out, then it's worth the sacrifice to me. If it doesn't, then he can just turn me back and I won't have to spend the rest of my life wondering, what if? Hanabi replied, one tear escaping from each of her eyes. Tayuya quickly felt bad for the girl. But before she could give in to her, the redhead had one more thing to bring up. Okay Hana-chan, you have a point. Me and the others are pretty much doing that same thing here. But you gotta understand, that would mean becoming a mother in the next few years. Could you handle that? Hanabi wiped her eyes. By the time it actually happens, then yes. And that's actually where I bring up my best point. Tayuya arched an eyebrow. Like what? For the idea behind Naruto-kun's harem to work, all the girls involved need skills that their kids can benefit inheriting too. The girl that wrote that letter for him says the same thing I realized while he was away. With that in mind, I'm one of the best choices for being a member. Remember the age control. It only works in close-range situations. So the kids who inherit it need to be taught to be close-range fighters, like me. I told Okawa-san that and she said it works out perfectly and gives my clan the edge they'll need in the future, so I help him and he helps me. The fact that I love him just makes us more compatible. Tayuya thought it over and saw no holes in the argument except one. You love him, huh? In what way? I enjoy his company and personality and look forward to the next time we're together every time we part. I know he's not perfect, but he's perfect just the way he is. I see him in my dreams and want to be a part of his dreams, like you. So you tell me. Hanabi answered. Tayuya smiled warmly and ruffled the girl's hair. I'd say that's somewhere between a childhood crush and the beginning of young love. But I'm not the romantic type, so what the fuck do I know for sure? So if you're so damn confident about it, why don't you go tell him what you just told me? I think I will. Wanna come along? Sure. Why the hell not? I still need to give him this anyway after I see Otokage-sama. The redhead replied while indicating the envelope. In less than half an hour, Tayuya had told Orochimaru about her mission in Suna and followed Hanabi to Naruto's training ground. He was sparring against Isaribi while Anko handled Hinata. The two visiting girls couldn't help but just gaze at him for a bit before making themselves known. Hey Naruto! Tayuya shouted. The whiskered blonde turned to look at the redhead, which gave Isaribi an opening to knock him on his feet. Sorry about that, Naruto-kun. Let me make you feel better. The purple-haired swimmer told him cheerfully as she knelt down next to him and held his hand, indicating that had been her plan all along. Before you get too comfortable there, pal, you might want to read this. Tayuya told him before holding out the envelope. Thanks, Tayuya-chan. Glad you're back from your mission. He said as he took it and opened it, pulling out the letter. He read it over but didn't say anything while he read. Isaribi curiously read over his shoulder, and Anko and Hinata ended up doing the same. While they were reading, Hinata and Isaribi exchanged comprehending looks regarding the content. Man, I feel kinda bad for Temari-chan. Naruto said when he finished. Why's that? Hinata asked. She said she thought about coming here to be with us a while ago, but can't see how now. I'm having a hard time seeing how to make that happen too. But at least she's already got a life back in Suna. He answered. That's not what she wants though. Isaribi said. Come on, she's willing to give up her home just to be here with you and help you in our group. I'm sure Otokage-sama could find a way to let her come. Yeah, maybe it can be called an alliance marriage between our two villages to make it legal for her to come here. Isaribi added. Naruto chuckled. Are you girls actually more eager for this harem thing than I am? Hinata wrapped her arms around him from behind. Naru-kun, if she could come here, would you accept her in our group? I do like Temari-chan. Always have. I just didn't think about it since she lived elsewhere. So sure, I guess. If she can get here. He answered. Great. Now all you need is one more girl. And I know another volunteer. Tayuya stated. Who? Naruto and Hinata asked. Me. Hanabi said with a smile. You. Hinata asked. Sisters share everything, don't they? The younger Byakugan wielder asked. But still, you're too young to help me out like this, Hanabi-chan. Naruto told her. Tayuya grabbed his shoulder. Naruto-kun, come with me for a moment while she talks to them. I've got something to show you. Keep your clothes on. Hinata told them as they walked away. No promises. Tayuya teasingly shouted back. Orochimaru was in his office talking to Tsunade while Tayuya and Naruto watched them from a tree, unable to hear anything the Sannin were saying. Why did you bring me here? Naruto asked. Take a look at those two there, Naruto-kun. How long ago were they born? She asked. About 50 years ago. And how old do they look? Their early 30s. Naruto answered, not seeing where this was going. And why is that? Tayuya knowingly asked. My age control Kekkei Genkei. You know that. Tayuya smiled. So you can make people younger. Or older too if you want. Of course. So what's your point? Tayuya pointed at the window and he looked. Naruto-kun, you can take an old woman like Tsunade-sama and make her into a beautiful young. Eyes up Naruto-kun. He stiffened at her command. A young fertile fuckable woman again. So that means you could make Hanabi-chan into a sexy young woman too. And before you ask, she's actually the one who asked for it. Naruto looked back at the flutist. But why would she do that? I've got nothing against Hanabi-chan as a friend, but she's just a kid. And you can change that. All she wants is to see if it can work out for her. If it doesn't, then you can turn her back, right? He nodded. So why the hell not? I was skeptical too at first, but she convinced me it's worth a shot. Naruto sighed. Give me some time to think about it. Okay. Tayuya nodded. Sure thing. Hey, if you do go for it, maybe we can have a three-way someday. Wouldn't that be fucking awesome? She laughed when his nosebleed made him fall out of the tree. Oh shit, he took that seriously. Damn, this is going to be fun. Back with the girls, another discussion of a similar nature was going on. No Hanabi, I'm not sharing Naru-kun with you. Hinata told her little sister firmly. You could tell how bothered she was by the tone of her voice and the fact that she didn't use the Imouto title. And why not exactly? Hanabi asked, giving her sister a hard look. Isaribi just looked on at the moment. I think I can see electricity jolting between their eyes. Enko was watching too. This should be entertaining. Someone in alto attire coming up to her from behind caught her interest more though. Because you're too young. End of story. Hinata stated. No, not end of story. Hear me out, okay? And why should I? Hanabi smiled in a dangerous way. If you don't, Naruto-kun will. You know he'll hear me out for sure. Hinata mentally grimaced. Fine. Explain whatever you want to. I know I'm too young now, so can't you just reserve a spot in the group for me when I'm able to have kids? Please. Hanabi asked. And why should I and Naru-kun wait that long? By then we might find another for the final position. But I'm your sister. Don't I matter? Don't give me that, Hanabi. Hinata told her. You do matter to me very much. But I don't need to cater to your every whim to prove it. If you think I do, then you're too childish to get this wish granted. But Ni-chan, I can help Naruto-kun just as much as you can when it comes to starting his new clans. Hanabi countered. Hinata arched an eyebrow. How? Well, I figured that you would most likely pass down the Neo Byakugan to your kids. Who better to teach them how to use it than someone who already has such a dujutsu like you? Since I'm being trained to be a close-range fighter, I could help pass down age control, which can only be used in close-range situations. Isaribi smirked. Actually, that's not such a bad idea. You stay out of this. Hinata warned without any real negative intent. Why? Hanabi asked. As one of your harem sisters, doesn't she have a say in who gets involved? Even if Naruto-kun makes the final decision. She's got a point, Hinata-chan. Isaribi told her teammate. Are you in favor of the idea? She's too young for this. And for all we know, she may later decide she likes some other boy closer to her own age. Hinata replied. That's why I asked if you could just reserve the last spot in the group for me until I can have kids. Do you have any other volunteers? Hanabi asked. The fact was currently they didn't. While Naruto was liked amongst his peers, fangirls were actually a rarity in Oto. The main reason was that the education system made sure to enforce the fact to its female students that the battlefield was no place to worry about if a boy was noticing them. One part that helped was that all kunoichi in training had to attend a month of classes with no boys present in their final year, where they were taught kunoichi-specific lessons and harsh truths for their careers. Generally without the boys around to encourage them, most fangirls either lost their interest in the shinobi job or learned to have different priorities when on the job. So Hinata drew a blank regarding Hanabi's question. She honestly couldn't think of anyone else to consider over her own sister. As a result, she had little choice but to cave in. Fine, Imouto-chan, we'll hold a place for you in the future. For now at least. Hanabi smiled and held out her hand. Okay, If when I can have children and I'm still interested in joining, you and Naruto-kun will let me be a part of your little harem. Deal. With your teammate here as a witness. Hinata shook her sister's hand. Deal. Hanabi struggled to contain her snicker. Ha. Got you Nichan. I say when I can have kids, not several years from now like you probably assumed I meant. I could join tomorrow thanks to age control if I wanted to. You're just lucky I'm not going to rush things so soon. I'd like to at least be chronologically 12 before I make my move. Hey, where did Enko-sensei go? Isaribi asked, regaining the girl's attention. Hinata looked towards where she last saw the purple-haired Junin, but she was gone. Enko was currently in Orochimaru's office along with Kurenai and Kabuto, standing in front of Orochimaru seated at his desk. The Alto member told her she was needed for a chat with him, so she left her team to handle its own dispute for now. Orochimaru made himself comfortable. My 3 students, as you are aware, we've been waiting for years for the chance to get back at Konoha for the injustices it has committed. Now, we have our chance. How so? Kurenai asked. Thanks to our ally the Cage, we've gotten an invite to participate in the Chunin exams in Konoha this year. We'll never have a better chance for a sneak attack on the village, so this is the perfect opportunity. I've called you 3 here to see if you think your students are qualified to participate. We will still take the test seriously even if we have a separate agenda. A chance for genin from our village to earn an honest Chunin promotion. And a chance to kick some leaf ass. I'm in. Enko replied. Otokage-sama, if I may, personally I'm over my personal grief with that village. However, I do understand that they need some sense beaten into them, so I won't object to your plan. Also, I believe my genin are ready for the challenge. Kurenai told the pale Sanin. Kabuto hummed in thought for a moment before answering. My genin may need a little more experience, but if Enko-chan's team and Kurenai-chan's team is joining, then I know they'll have their backs covered. I'll ask them first, but if they accept, then I'm all for it. Perfect. Orochimaru said with a pleased grin. I'm especially glad that you two agreed, Enko-chan and Kurenai-chan. Your Jinchuriki will prove to be very helpful components to our goals. Above all else, we must ensure those two make it to the finals. Kabuto-kun, your team will help keep Konoha guessing as to the range of our village's abilities, since no genin from Konoha have encountered them yet, until the other 2 teams. The 3 Junin nodded. Understood. I presume that since Naruto and Fu must make it to the final round, that is when we'll make the first strike. Kurenai asked. Yes, that is when Konoha will be most preoccupied, so that will be our window of opportunity. Also, since we're also going to be evaluating our genin, we don't want to cheat them out of it by denying them the right to be in the finals, right? Orochimaru asked. Also, Suna will be sending their teams too, so we must ensure that their Jinchuriki Gaara gets to the finals too. Konoha's forces will counterstrike strongly even if we strike first, and with Suna's help, so having 3 ready Jinchuriki will play a big factor in our favor. So I'm guessing we'll need to disguise ourselves as Suna Nin for this mission. Kabuto asked, remembering the times when Oto Ninja had to pretend to be affiliated with other villages to do their jobs. Orochimaru shook his head. No, not for this. That was my plan, but 2 things have changed that. Kage-sama specifically mentioned to the Hokage that a new village would enter the exam with his teams, so if Konoha doesn't see anyone associated with a new village, they will get suspicious. Also, some Konoha genin saw 6 of our own genin with the real symbol on their Hitai Atesh, so using new ones would just confuse them and they may alert Konoha officials of it, which may get our forces unable to progress in the exams and thus ruining our chances for the effective assault we want. Otokage-sama, from what I've seen, the Konoha genin are in no shape to take the genin exams. The odds of them seeing our genin there is slim. Enko interjected. But not non-existent. Their Junin sensei may enter them for some reason. And even if he doesn't, you can't guarantee they won't see your genin on the streets before the exam or during the break between the 2nd and 3rd rounds. Orochimaru countered. Enko slowly nodded in understanding. So we're going to have to go as Oto Nin, not Suna. And in case you're worried they'll be detained for anything they did on their mission to Wave, remember that as guests Konoha cannot legally approach them unless they commit a crime on Konoha's turf, per the international Chunin exam rules. Because the exams took place in 5 different countries and so many from other countries got to attend, a set of rules for every round and every country it took place in had to be made for the alliance between villages to remain stable. One of these rules was that those invited to attend could not be arrested for any crimes committed outside the village's walls, nor could they be taken into custody for any reason unless it could be confirmed with evidence they had done something illegal within the village. The rule became necessary after Kiri tried to kill all those attending one of the exams there that had a Kekkei Genkai, and after Kumo tried to trap an attending Hyuga member at one of its own. So now, as long as none of the Oto nin did anything illegal, Konoha couldn't do anything to them even for harming their precious Uchiha, lest they lose business and risk offending their allies. Otokage-sama, am I correct in presuming that Suna will assist us in this strike against Konoha? Kurenai asked. The Sannin nodded. Yes. Kazekage-sama agreed once he heard that a team from Konoha had tried to kill Naruto and had kept Yondaime-sama's wife locked away like some sort of patient zero. Add that to what my old sensei tried to get him to do to Gaara years ago, and he's all in favor of knocking them down a couple pegs. However, Iwa will only provide backup support outside the village and will keep any tracker nin from Konoha from being able to find us. I didn't discuss this with Taki because Jiraiya feels they would choose to remain neutral instead. So the plan is our genin teams go to Konoha with us supervising them, having them take the test, where we can't tell them exactly how to guarantee passing but making sure 3 genin in particular stay through it to the end if necessary, in making the big move when almost all of Konoha's eyes are on the arena. Suna will assist us in the initial attack and Iwa will assist us in the event we have to leave or Konoha tries to get outside assistance. Am I right? Enko asked. Orochimaru smiled deviously. I couldn't have said it better myself. When Enko returned to her team she saw that Naruto was back along with Tayuya and Hanabi looked like she was trying to hang all over him, with Hinata cracking her knuckles for show. Did I miss anything good? Yeah, I'm going to be Naruto-kun's 9th wife. Hanabi happily exclaimed. Enko looked like she just saw a snake with legs, then looked at Naruto. I'm pretty sure that's illegal Otuto. She's just top candidate for now Enko-sensei, so don't take it so literally. Hinata told the Junin. Enko nodded slowly, but with a sinister expression. Wow Otuto, you actually managed to attract 2 sisters. Most guys would consider that lucky. And speaking of lucky, I've got good news for the 3 of you. How would you 3 feel about competing in the Chunin exams? The real Chunin exams? Isaribi asked. Enko nodded. Yes, not that skill evaluation thing we've done for the past decade here. The real deal. Something even I didn't get to do. In fact, you'll actually be the first genin from Oto to participate. Quite an honor if you ask me. Where is it this year? Hinata asked. This is the bad news. It's in Konoha. All 3 genin, and even Tayuya and Hanabi paled at hearing that. But then Naruto spoke up. So now we can show Konoha just what they gave up and hit their pride where it hurts. I'm in. Maybe I can do more than just hurt that jerk. Enko nodded. Oh, you'll definitely get to do more damage than that. I guarantee it. Because, once the exams are over, we're going to show the entire village how strong we are. Tayuya was the only one who immediately understood what Enko was saying. Ah, I'm guessing Operation Burning Leaf is a go. Yes, it's time. We'll never have a better chance for it. What's Operation Burning Leaf? Isaribi asked. It's a vengeance strike against Konoha. Enko answered. As I'm sure you're already aware, this village was founded by people trying to escape the crimes of Konoha and Kiri, and the certain death that would have resulted in staying there in either. In fact, with the exception of Tayuya-san, each one of us right here was victimized by Konoha in some way. Naruto for containing a demon, myself for defending him, Hinata was neglected and beaten by the Hyugas, Hanabi was likely to suffer the same fate, and Isaribi was a test subject for a scientist misusing Jisen's funding. And Konoha's crimes are not limited to just that. It's time for us to get our pound of flesh from them. Are you 3 in? I am. For what they did to Ka-san's body and 2-san's last wishes, I want to do something. Naruto answered. Hinata nodded. I'd like to seriously hurt those damn Hyugas so I can truly feel apart from them. Isaribi clapped her hands together once. I'm not sure how useful I'd be, but I'm not going to be the only one who stays behind. Enko grinned at her protégés. Good, now remember to do your best. I'm still expecting you to qualify for Chunin at the same time. Naruto replied with a wide smile and a thumbs up. I'm definitely going to make Chunin. Believe it. Back in Konoha, one team of genin stood at a small bridge over a creek waiting for their sensei to show up. Kiba was keeping himself busy by sitting down and eating some breakfast with Akamaru. Sasuke leaned over the railing and looked down into the passing water while Sakura stood on the other side, wondering if she should approach him or not. For Sasuke, the past few weeks had been a real eye-opener. Even though the council had told him those harsh things, afterwards he still remained convinced that the population of the village would still treat him like some sort of celebrity. Oh, how wrong he was. How very, very wrong. Flashback. Sasuke went grocery shopping and was carrying a basket full of milk, bread, meat, both beef and poultry, and some apples and rice up to the checkout counter. He quickly noticed that the cashier didn't give him the friendly smile he was used to seeing from the middle-aged woman. They took the food and rang up the total price. That'll be 2,270 ryo. Sasuke raised his eyebrows. Wait a minute, the last time I got this stuff I only had to pay 1,000 ryo even. Yeah, that was back when you had status and connections, kid. Sasuke glared. So you're raising the prices for me higher than others just because of some stupid technicality. You can lose your job for that. The cashier didn't look the least bit intimidated. No, I can't, because you're not being discriminated against. You're paying just as much as everyone now, full price. Not the reduced prices I was ordered to give you by the council. Reduced prices? Sasuke asked. Yeah, every store you've ever gone to has given you a lot of leeway on how much they charge you. Some of them even did it voluntarily, because they hoped when you came into power you'd repay their kindness. But now that we know you never will, we don't have to give you a discount anymore. So you're being charged just as much as everyone else, at least here if not everywhere. And it's completely legal for me to do so. Sasuke growled low in the back of his throat. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the money, having enough but not expecting to use that much here. Fine. I'm sure another store will treat an elite with the respect he deserves. He then left with his provisions. End flashback. To his disappointment and shock, no other store gave him the low prices he was expecting. He had to go home earlier than intended because he didn't have enough money on hand to get all he wanted. When he looked over his new budget and costs, he found he would have to make some cutbacks in some areas until he could earn more. Damn, if only I still had access to the Uchiha account. Why should I be unable to get all I want? I'm an elite, damn it. He was still in denial about what the council told him, but it couldn't last much longer at this rate or he'd go insanely arrogant or arrogantly insane. Another change that occurred, however, both bothered and pleased him. That was the lose of his fangirls, all but Sakura. While he was grateful that now they wouldn't hang all over him like flies, his ego took a hit at the fact that they no longer found him desirable. And it all started the day after the council's ruling against him. Flashback. Sasuke was out training when a large number of his fangirls came up to him. Sasuke-kun, we heard you just got back from an A-ranked mission and faced against a missing nin and saved a whole country. You're so cool. One said with stars in her eyes, hers not the only ones like that. Normally Sasuke would just ignore them, but he was down a bit from the council's cruel words so he needed a pick-me-up. Thanks. He still wasn't much of a talker though. Before the girls could continue flattering him, a new girl approached with a glare and clenched fists. This girl was Ino, and she looked pissed. You've got a lot of nerve, you smug son of a bitch. Everyone there gasped, even Sasuke. Ino was known to be one of his biggest supporters, so why did she suddenly pull a 180 regarding him? They didn't wonder for long. So we're nothing but stupid brainless bitches are we. You heartless piece of shit. What are you talking about? A light purple-haired fangirl named Amy asked in disbelief. Ino gave her and the others cold glances, still angry but not necessarily at them. Didn't you hear? Apparently that smug sob lost his rights to his clans and thought that he could use us to get them back. He even said we're a bunch of whiny-ass bimbos who don't have any other use to him. He doesn't give a damn about us and never did. The girls gasped. That can't be true. I didn't want to believe it either, but Otu-san showed me the memory himself. This jerk here only cares about himself and wouldn't look our way unless he can profit from it. Heck, I doubt he even knows a single one of our names. Ino replied. All the girls turned to the Uchiha, hoping he could prove the Yamanaka heiress wrong. The fact that he remained silent only made them more worried. Amy then looked back at Ino. You can't be serious. Ino crossed her arms. I'm more than willing and able to prove it. Come with me and see for yourself. Needless to say, Amy and all the others did, wanting to know for themselves. Luckily Inoichi had some free time, so he did a memory-sharing jutsu that he used on Ino to let them all see what Sasuke said at the last meeting like he showed his daughter. As a result, all the fangirls wanted nothing less than to inflict some sort of bodily harm on the boy they had been crazy about before. End flashback. So not only did Sasuke lose his social standing in the marketplace, he lost it amongst his own generation. Now even Kiba was a more eligible bachelor than he was. Only two things so far had remained constant: Sakura's affections and the mystery gifts he got on his doorstep at random times from someone he still could not identify. Most likely not Sakura, because she barely had the skill or desire to do something for him without being noticed. He sighed, his thoughts swirling around in his head. The council no longer respects me, the shops no longer recognize my worth, and the girls are throwing a childish tantrum. What's wrong with everyone? Don't they realize I am the one Uchiha here and I need power to kill Itachi? Why does no one see that anymore? What they're doing is only slowing me down when I need to be getting stronger so I can go kill him and those music note nin that took my power from me in the first place. Because of his denial, he didn't want to think that maybe he deserved the treatment he was getting. Or that nobody cared about his personal agenda now. Meanwhile, Sakura watched him from behind, wondering what to do about the boy she obsessed over. She saw how bothered he was at everything he took for granted suddenly disappearing from his grasp. She didn't know what she could offer him besides her consolation, but she wasn't sure if she even could now. Not after what she had been told. Flashback. Sakura, we need to talk. Natsumi told the young girl once she got home after the council meeting. Natsumi Haruno was actually Sakura's aunt on her father's side and a council member for the civilians, who worked as a librarian in her non-council time. Both of Sakura's parents were clanless shinobi that died in battle against the Kyuubi years ago, which meant Natsumi became her legal guardian at a very young age. Unlike her brother and sister-in-law, Natsumi did not have the courage or desire to be a ninja and never even attended the ninja academy. However, she did notice that shinobi clans had the best lifestyles and bank accounts in the village and always wanted to join in on their luxury despite her low status and non-ninja lifestyle. So Natsumi at a young age tried the one way she saw available to her: marry into a clan and use their benefits as her own. Problem is that's easier said than done, and ninja aren't that easy to fool. She had tried to form a subtle parasite relationship with Hiyashi Hyuga, Fugaku Uchiha, Inoichi Yamanaka, and even Minato Namikaze, all without success. What about Obasan? Sakura asked. It's about the young Uchiha. Her aunt started. It appears he now has no access to his clan fortune or status in this village. So now there's no point in you pursuing him anymore. Sakura's eyes widened. What do you mean? I love Sasuke-kun. Why would I stop pursuing him? Because you have nothing to gain from him anymore. He'll have to work for wealth now and can't give you any children in the future. You'd be better off trying to catch the interest of someone else now, like your other teammate. Sakura looked disgusted. Kiba baka. No way. I love Sasuke-kun and I'm not ditching him because of some little problem just like that. It would be smarter if you did. After all, there are other fish in the sea. Sakura looked confused. But all these years you've told me Sasuke-kun is the only guy in the country worth my attention and affection. Why the sudden change? It makes no sense, Obasan. Because beforehand if you had gotten his IU and I would have a better nest egg to rely on and not worry about our budget and have more authority in this village. But with his new handicap you won't get anything of the sort from him. So I'm telling you to give up on him since he's just an empty wallet now and go for some boy with better resources now so he can take care of us. Natsumi said rather plainly. Sakura was having a hard time processing this. But you always said. I know what I said. Listen to what I'm saying now. There's no point in pursuing the Uchiha now, so find someone else with money and status. Sakura looked ready to faint. But I love Sasuke-kun. I won't leave him for someone richer. You better. How else are we going to have a better life? I know I can have a good life with Sasuke-kun when we get married. Maybe it won't be as luxurious as before, but it will be worth it as long as I'm with him. Sakura told her aunt. Natsumi scoffed. Bullshit. A man who can't provide for and spoil a woman isn't a man of any worth, so just ditch him and look for one that can. That's that. End flashback. As a result, Sakura didn't know what to do. She still cared for Sasuke, but now her aunt, the same one who encouraged her to take an interest in him in the first place, told her to give up and find someone she deemed more profitable. She didn't want to stop trying to earn his affections, but at the same time she didn't want her aunt upset at her. Those two and their ideas were pretty much the foundation of her entire thought process, and to feel split between the two was giving her a headache. Kiba meanwhile was ignoring the whole situation. His only thoughts on the matter were simple and selfish. Hey, now that Mr. High and Mighty is a nobody, now some of the girls will look my way. It will be nice to have some girls treat me as top dog rather than put me down like Nisan does and Okawa-san too sometimes. Kakashi came up to them and waved. Hey team. You're late again. Sakura said irritably, but strangely much quieter than normal. I know, but it was because I got something for you three. The Cycloptic Junin said as he pulled out 3 papers. I got you 3 nominations to take place in the upcoming Chunin exams. If you feel ready for it, then sign these and I'll turn them in. The Chunin exams. Hell yeah. The perfect chance to show off my skills to everyone. Kiba said excitedly as he eagerly took one of the forms being offered. You might want to work on your subtlety, Kiba. Kakashi told him. After all, good ninja don't go showing off. But girls like tough guys. The Inuzuka countered confidently, signing the paper without even looking it over fully. Kakashi sighed, then faced his other students. What about you two? The whole team has to agree or no one participates. Sasuke gave his teacher a curious yet annoyed look. Is there a chance those assholes we saw in Wave will be here for it? Kakashi shrugged. I guess it's possible, but you'll only be legally allowed to do anything about them if you participate in the exams. Otherwise you'd be arrested for a long time as an international threat to others. Can you guarantee they'll be there? Sasuke asked. No, I can't. You'll just have to see for yourself. Sasuke closed his eyes and thought it over. I've got to take this chance. And even if they don't show up, I can prove to all the idiots here that even without my Sharingan I'm still a superior ninja. He opened his eyes and held out his hand. All except. Sakura predictably joined in on his actions. Me too. This way Obasan can't complain about me being close to him, and when he becomes Chunin maybe she'll see how great he is for me. Kakashi handed them all their entry forms. Remember guys, this won't be, don't go thinking this is like the tests you took back in the academy. Your life will be on the line here and you'll face people who'll have no reason to go easy on you whatsoever. The looks in Sasuke's and Kiba's eyes said they were confident in their skills to win. Maybe a bit too confident. While Sakura's eyes showed less confidence and more of hope for the Uchiha beside her. I sure hope you know what you're getting into. Kakashi thought. But then again, I am using this as an eye-opener for you three. Maybe afterwards you'll think with your brains rather than your egos or fantasies. Sakura and Kiba were walking down the street a week later wondering about the Chunin exams that would start tomorrow. Kiba looked forward to the parts where he could show off his skills to everyone, hoping it would attract the girls and humble the other boys. Sakura however was starting to worry about how well she'd do, considering she was the weakest member of her team. At first, she thought Sasuke would be able to keep her safe, but how could she seriously expect to get through the test if she had to be dependent on someone else to cover for her? That surely wasn't what the higher-ups were looking for in a Chunin. This test is going to be a piece of cake, ain't it, Sakura? Kiba asked to start some sort of conversation between the two as they looked for Kakashi and Sasuke for additional last-minute training. I wouldn't say that, Kiba. Remember, it's not going to be like the kind we used to take. She said. Yeah, this time we'll do more fighting than paperwork. The Inuzuka replied, making Sakura sigh silently in frustration. Hey, let go of me. A young boy's voice cried out from the street right of them, drawing both of their attentions. They saw a young man they never saw before wearing something that made him look like a black cat holding a brown-haired boy by his collar and the long green scarf around it. The older boy wore decorative war paint on his face and a wrapped-up bundle on his back about as big as he was. From this distance they could see a metal plate on his head cover but they couldn't see the symbol etched on it. There was also a boy with glasses and an orange-haired girl the same age as the other boy telling the other guy to let their friend go. You should have watched where you were going, runt. The black-clad boy told the kid. Hey! Let that kid go right now, you creep! Sakura screamed as she stormed up to the newcomer. When she got close enough she saw the Suna emblem on his Hittite. A blonde woman with 4 short tufts of hair tied in the back came into sight as if by shushan behind the black-clad shinobi. She wore a light purple battle dress that covered everything between her shoulders and thighs with a red sash as a belt. She also wore fishnet mesh across her shoulders and for some reason on her right calf and left thigh. She wore a scarf like Hittite around her neck with the Suna symbol as well and carried a long metal object on her back the two Konoha genin couldn't identify. Kankuro, stop that. Don't draw attention to yourself. She told him sternly. But Tamari, I'm just teaching this kid a lesson. He argued. Just don't, okay. Save your energy for tomorrow. Hey. Did you hear me? Sakura screamed again, ready to hit if the kid wasn't still being held captive. Of course we did. They probably heard you and Kiri. Kankuro told her. What are a bunch of Sunanin doing here? Kiba asked as he approached. Tamari hit Kankuro's hands, making him drop the young boy. You better run off before he decided to finish what he started, kid. The young boy nodded and ran off with his 2 friends. Tamari then looked at the 2 Konoha nin. Why do you think we're here? We came for the Chunin exams. But those start tomorrow. Why are you here today? Kiba asked. Why would we wait for the last minute? Kankuro asked back. Yeah, other teams are on their way right now too and they should all get here by nightfall. We're just lucky enough to get here first. Tamari added. Other teams, huh? Sakura thought curiously. Did either of you happen to see anybody wearing Hittite atesh with a music note on them? Tamari and Kankuro exchanged looks, careful to make it look like they were trying to remember something. No, nothing like that comes to mind. Why? Because those guys are horrible thugs that deserve the death penalty 10 times. The Pinkett said venomously. The Suna nin's eyes widened in surprise. What did they do? Tamari asked as if offended by the claim. They hurt someone from our village. Sakura answered hostilely, not wanting to admit it was Sasuke to someone they may have to fight later and could use his weakness to their advantage. Tamari and Kankuro arched an eyebrow each. Unless it's your cage, how does that justify the death penalty? Kankuro asked. Just ignore her. Kiba butted in. As far as she's concerned this guy is bigger than all the cages in the history of the continent put together. Sakura gave him a dirty look for the implied put down, but he ignored it. But he's just overrated. Me on the other hand, now I'm a guy with real strength. Kankuro looked him right in the eye. Care to prove it, hotshot? He then reached for one of the straps holding his concealed puppet on his back. Kankuro, what are you thinking? You can't use the karasu here. Tamari warned. I'll just be a moment. Think of it as practice for later, Nei-san. He said. Kankuro. A creepy voice called out, attracting everyone's attention to the branch of a nearby tree. There stood another Suna nin with short red hair, dark brown clothes, and a large gourd strapped onto his back. It looked like it should have thrown his balance off but he looked like it didn't inconvenience him in any way. In this FIC he doesn't have eye on his forehead as he wasn't traumatized by the Yoshimaru incident thanks to Tsunade and Naruto. And his seal was improved so he's not homicidal and insomniac because of the Ikibi. Don't reveal your trump card right away. You will need it for later. The black-clad shinobi relented. Fine Gaara. If you say so. Who the heck are you? Kiba asked. Weird, he smells like sand and raccoon, and looks like someone who's not afraid to get blood on his hands. None of your business, was the cold reply. Hey Gaara, did you and Baki-sensei find a hotel? Tamari asked. The raccoon-eyed Suna nin nodded, then quickly raised his right hand to catch a pebble that had been thrown at him from behind. He turned his head to see Sasuke standing behind him condescendingly in the tree. Nice try, but you're far from my level. Sasuke scoffed. Do you know who I am? No, and I do not care. Gaara plainly replied. I am Sasuke Uchiha, the single best genin in all of Land of Fire, and you will respect me. Gaara looked away. I respect only a select few, and you do not deserve to be one of them. He then jumped out of the tree. Nisan, let's go. The others will be here soon. The trio of Sunanin started walking off. Sasuke, fuming at being ignored, jumped down as well. Tell me your name. Gaara turned to look at him again. I am Gaara Subaku. Then I hope to face against you shortly, Gaara. Sasuke declared. Likewise. My ally needs some blood. Sakura paled then glowered. You dare threaten to kill Sasuke-kun. You heartless bastard. I'll get you kicked out of town for. Shut up or I'll kill you. He said dangerously low with a hardened look at the kunoichi, making the air actually feel cold around her. She stopped her rant, much to everyone's relief. That was your one warning. You better be careful, girl. My brother doesn't make idle threats. Tamari told her fellow kunoichi. With that, the three disappeared in a sand shushin. Sasuke put his hands in his pockets. Something about that guy is dangerous and powerful. I must know what it is and how to take it for myself. Sasuke-kun, you were so cool facing those creeps like that. Sakura said. As always, he ignored her and walked away. She followed, and Kiba did too, simply because he thought he might find his sensei too and get some training like he intended to before this happened. Okay team, here's where things get tough. You ready? Enko asked as all three Odo teams approached the main gates of Konoha. Not really, but if we were afraid of risks we wouldn't be ninja in the first place, would we? Hinata asked. Think we can last long enough to make it to the finals before anyone notices us? Naruto asked. Not sure. But if Konoha tries anything underhanded, like framing us just so they have an excuse to put us behind bars, then Kazekage-sama can back us up. I bet even Tsuchikage-sama would too if they went that far. Kabuto added. Yeah. Konoha won't want to risk offending their ally, Suna, or their enemy, Iwa. Kurenai added with a nod. But still, don't add fuel to the fire. All of the genin nodded. In no time they got up to the gate. Izumo and Katetsu were standing guard as was their routine. Welcome to Konoha. Are you here for the Chunin exams? Kabuto nodded. Yes, we're here on behalf of Kazekage-sama, who was nice enough to nominate our meager village for this great honor. Smooth Kabuto-kun. Enko and Kurenai thought. Izumo saw the symbol on their Hitai Atesh. I've never seen that one before. Where do you hail from? A rather small and new village called Odogakure. This is our first chance to be noticed by the world. Kurenai answered humbly. And Kazekage-sama invited you to participate? Kotestu asked. Enko nodded. Yes. He was rather insistent that we get a chance to see how tough we really are. And while we may not be as strong as Konoha, I feel we may do decently. Izumo handed them a clipboard with the standard legal entry form on it for all guests into hidden villages. Just sign here and find yourself somewhere to lodge tonight. Participating genin are required to be at the Konoha Academy room 301 at 8 a.m. sharp. You got that, team? Enko asked as she took the clipboard. They all nodded, and soon each Odo nin signed in. They gladly noticed that their Suna friends were already here as planned. Enko and Naruto had to use their fake surname Arashi, and Kurenai had to use a fake one as well, Hiyu, in case anyone recognized her family name from years before. Kabuto and the others were a safer bet, so they used their regular names. Of course Hinata used the name Hibiki as she never used the name Hyuga and never intended to. As part of their cover, some of them were disguised physically too. Naruto had makeup to cover his whisker marks and dyed his hair brown, making the connection to his father that much harder to see. He wasn't wearing an orange and black jumpsuit right now, but he did bring it along for later on. Right now he wore a forest green jacket over a black shirt and navy blue pants. Hinata wore blue contacts that made it look like she had a normal set of blue eyes and a red version of her normal jacket. Kurenai also wore a set of brown contacts to cover her red eyes, in case anyone noticed them. But overall, the Junin would be the hardest to identify by appearance alone, so they didn't change themselves that much. Kabuto and his genin didn't change their appearance at all and Enko wore her hair down in a low ponytail. The others from Odo looked their normal selves. Oka, why you're all set? Enjoy our village and try to stay out of trouble. Izumo told them with a friendly tone and smile. Don't worry, we intend to. We wouldn't want to risk upsetting the strongest of all the villages after all. Kurenai replied. I suddenly feel so dirty. They then left the guards before the conversation had to continue any further. That night all the Chunin hopefuls were now in Konoha and in their hotel rooms or campsites in the forests. The three Odo teams quickly hooked up with Baki's team before anyone else from Konoha saw them. Right now all four teams were in the hotel room. The Suna Nin checked out for now. Any trouble yet? Baki asked the others. So far now. But we did just start out so we shouldn't drop our guard. Kurenai answered. What are you guys going to do while we're being tested? Sasama asked. Hard to say. We can't just go around the village or we'll look suspicious as if we're planning something. Enko stated. Maybe we'll go find a nice dango bar to hang out in. Kabuto gave her an, are you serious? Look. You are aware that the second round can take several days most times, right? Enko just shrugged. Several days in a dango shop. You make that sound like a bad thing, Kabuto-kun. He snorted in resignation. Yeah, I forgot who I was talking to for a moment. In any case, don't worry about us. Worry about yourself and your upcoming opponents. Kurenai told all the genin. She then looked at Baki. I hope you don't mind, but since we're likely to get in hot water with Konoha, would it be okay for us to crash here with you four? The veiled Suna Junin nodded. Yes, that would be wise. If Konoha is likely to do as you suspect, then having us as witnesses will ruin the credibility of their claims. So for the night at least one person from my team, myself included, will have to stand guard with someone from your teams. That way, no matter what and when, there will be at least one Suna witness to it. The Oto Junin nodded. If someone is close to the Yondaime cage as this team challenged any anti-Oto reports Konoha might make, it would look bad for Konoha to ignore or defame them, lest they incur the wrath of the cage. In that case, let's get some sleep. Big day tomorrow after all, you nine. Enko told them. I'll take first watch, if Naruto-kun keeps me company. Tamari said with a warm look at the disguised blonde. He started to say, unsure how to finish. That's okay with me. Hinata said. You two haven't had the chance to talk in person for months. Go right ahead. Enko eyed the Byakugan user curiously. Just who is really in charge of their harem, her or Otuto? With little fuss, everyone in the room save two ninja soon were asleep and waiting for tomorrow, the first day of the Chunin exams. The Oto and Suna were fortunate to not be disturbed their first night in Konoha. Their hotel did have several Anbu watching over it, but in all fairness their hotel wasn't the only one, so it was considered just normal protocol. They got up early and headed towards the Konoha Academy. They only knew where it was thanks to Gaara looking for it yesterday while his siblings were busy. Then again the gathering crowd of genin helped them too. Naruto looked over the building for a moment. Looks like a decent place. To think I might have learned how to be a ninja here instead of Odo had Jisun not taken me out of this hellhole. Then again, from what I've been told, I doubt I would have learned much if anything if I had attended this place. Which room do we go to again? Zaku asked. All four teams had gone together with the whole, safety in numbers principle in mind. And they all still wore the same outfits and disguises they wore coming into the village. For better odds in their favor, they went there 10 minutes ahead of time. 301 according to the gatekeepers. Kin told him. Shouldn't be that hard to find. Hinata said. Let's go in then. Naruto told them with his trademark grin. They opened the door and saw several genin already trying to find the room they needed to go to. Apparently they weren't the only ones who wanted an early start. Kankuro then spoke into his remote communicator that was tuned into all of them at the moment. It had two other frequencies, one was for personal teams, and the other to contain the Junin in case of severe trouble. Hey, if these guys can't find the place to go, I guess we barely have any competition. Tamari responded. Or maybe there are diversions set up as part of the test. Think about it, if you can't even find where you're supposed to go, then why would you deserve to be Chunin? Good point, Tamari-chan. So we should keep our eyes open for tricks but not remove any of them. Don't want to increase the competition after all. Naruto said. They walked down the hall and saw the numbers above the room. 101, 102, 103, etc. Looks like we may have to go to the third floor. Gaara thought out loud. I think so. Have you guys noticed that no actual leaf genin are on this floor? They all would know exactly where to go, so everyone down here is from out of town and searching the hard way, like we just did. Sasama pointed out. Hey, do you guys hear something? Isaribi asked them, looking towards her right. Everyone strained their ears. Sounds like a fight. Guess someone couldn't wait. Dosu commented. Should we go take a look? Just for the hell of it? Fu asked. Naruto shrugged. Nah. I'd like to find the room and just get there personally. Same here. Hinata agreed. I'm going to go take a quick look. I won't be long. Fu said, then walked away. We should follow her, Haku. It's probably not a good idea for our teams to be split here. Sasama told her teammate. Haku nodded. Good point. She then turned to the rest of their group. We'll meet up with you guys in a moment. Let's go find the room. I'll send a clone for them when we find it. Naruto told everyone else when Sasama and Haku wandered off. There's some stairs, that's a good start. Kankuro said, stating the obvious. The 9 ninja went up to the second floor. Before they could keep going up, they noticed a small crowd down the hallway. It looks like a crowd of genin trying to get into a room, but someone won't let them. Zaku said. Why would they do that here? This is the second floor, not the third. Tamari asked. Must be a trick. But if you ask me, anyone dumb enough to fall for that is too dumb to be even genin. Isaribi commented. The others nodded and just continued on up the stairs. They saw no point in getting involved in the commotion. Before they got to the next floor, Naruto created a shadow clone in case anyone on the third floor would be there to see him do it, and had the clone hide with a henge that made it blend in with the wall. The original would signal later for it to go find the others and led them to the correct room. At the third floor they went down the hallway and reached a room marked 301. In front of it was a Konoha ninja awaiting them, which happened to be a young man with a strange burn-like scar covering a good portion of his left face under his eye. Hi, I'm Rado Namiyashi. Judging from the fact that there are 9 of you, I take it that means you're actually 3 complete teams that just came here at the same time. They nodded. Good. My job is to ensure that only complete teams come here. Any incomplete teams are prohibited from advancing past this point, as it shows no teamwork skills needed for a proper chunin. Makes sense. Zaku commented. Rado nodded and handed each of them a small piece of paper. Go on in. Seating will be assigned, so don't bother getting comfortable with each other. And try not to draw attention to yourselves. The genin opened the door and entered the room. It was crowded with several shinobi of various origins, the most notable places being Konoha, Iwa, Kusa, Taki, Aim, Kumo, and Kiri. Most of them gave the newcomers the evil eye in an effort to size them up for future competition. Hinata gave the Kumo nin cautious glances. How exactly do we know where we're going to sit? Hinata asked Naruto. He pulled out the paper Rado gave him and saw the number 52 on it. I guess that's my seat. Which one's yours? Hinata checked her own. 27. Looks like we won't. Oh, my clone just dispelled, so the others are on their way here. And I think my clone saw a guy wearing green spandex. Naruto replied. Hinata arched an eyebrow. Seriously? He nodded. Weird. Well, good luck, Naru-kun. You too, Hina-chan. They refrained from kissing or holding hands to avoid revealing to any threats that they were closer than comrades. All the Oto and Suna genin checked their numbers and took their assigned seats. They all sat apart from each other, but Tamari sat directly behind Kankuro and Sasama sat at Naruto's right. Outside that, each one of the rest of them were at least one person apart in any direction. They quickly realized this was part of the test to ensure they all couldn't communicate with each other conveniently. The door behind them opened and they checked to see who was entering. It wasn't Haku, Fu, and Sasama, but a trio of Konoha ninja they didn't recognize. One had brown hair and wore what looked like a trench coat with a high collar, the other had black hair and pale skin, almost making him look like a relative of Orochimaru, and the female member had long brown hair with a purple, white and red dress and a cautious expression. After them came another trio of Konoha ninja. One had brown hair in a pineapple style much like Anko and a gray shirt with a bored expression. Another was a little on the heavyset side with red hair and an open green shirt over a white one. The female member was a pretty blonde wearing purple clothes that Anko would probably have worn when younger along with cloth warmers on her forearms and calves. After them the last team from Odo came in and immediately seeked their seats. The Konoha genin apparently all chose to stand around and wait for something to happen rather than get ready for the test to start. A minute later another Konoha team entered. One of them was clearly a Hyuga from his eyes and he looked at everyone like they weren't worth breathing towards. His male teammate was the green spandex wearer Naruto warned Hinata about, and his female teammate showed nothing special about herself, making her all the more necessary to keep an eye on later. This team did decide to take their assigned seats right away. The Kunoichi member stretched her arms above her head as she walked towards her spot 2 seats left of kin, and if anyone looked at her they would have seen her toss some small mirrors onto the ceiling that stuck in place with wires attached. Finally, the last Konoha team entered, and it was the one Odo encountered in Wave. They looked no different than before, except that Sasuke stood less rigid and Sakura wasn't trying to smother him with close contact. The Oto shinobi made a point to not look at them to avoid being recognized right away. So far it worked, and the interaction the other Konoha teams did with this team made it harder for Sasuke, Sakura, and Kiba to spot anyone in the room. A puff of smoke appeared in the front of the room and a man wearing a dark blue overcoat and a bandana of the same color showed up. A few scars were visible on his face, making him look like a seasoned veteran. All right, everyone take a seat right away, he shouted, capturing everyone's attentions and making them all obey. Hinata was not satisfied to see Sakura right at her left, but at least she was the only one in their 12-man group close to their main threats. Welcome to the Chunin exams. May Kami have mercy on you all, the trenchcoat man said with a chuckle, making some of the attendees nervous. My name is Ibiki Morino and I'm going to be in charge of the first section of the Chunin exam. First part. Akusa Nin asked. Of course. Did you really think that the evaluation process for becoming a Chunin would be done with one test? Not even the Genin test in the smallest hidden village is that easy. Ibiki answered, then returned his focus to the others. As I was saying, for those of you that are first-timers, we will test you for the various skills a Chunin must possess in various ways, and we do that in 3 ways. This first test will be done here with a 1-hour time limit. With that 2 doors to either side of Ibiki opened and about 20 Chunin from Konoha entered, each holding papers and a clipboard. These assistants of mine here will give you the tests. Under no circumstances is anyone allowed to start before I give permission or they and their entire team will fail. So while you're waiting to start, allow me to explain the rules of this test. The Chunin began passing the tests and pencils out all at once to get it done quickly while Ibiki explained the situation. This will be different than other tests you've taken. For one thing, instead of starting with 0 points and gaining more with each correct answer, you all will start out with perfect scores of 10 and will lose a point for each wrong answer you write down. This test will have 10 questions total and you will have 1 hour to finish it. However, only 9 questions are written down while the 10th question will be oral and have a few separate stipulations with it. At 10 minutes before the hour is up, those remaining in the test will have the opportunity to hear more. The Chunin finished handing out the tests and took seats at the chairs that were aligned against the walls of the room. And don't let me or anyone here catch anyone cheating. These men and women will remain here with me to keep an eye on you to monitor your progress and try to catch any cheaters. If you are caught cheating you automatically lose 2 points off your total score right away, and if you're caught 5 times, well if you can't do the math let's just say you'll be at 0 and instantly disqualified. And your teammates will be forced to leave the test with you regardless of their own scores. All the genin in the room absorbed these instructions and prepared themselves for this. Ibiki eyed them all and saw some but not a lot were uncertain about their skills in getting far. Is that clear? There were no objections. You may begin. Now. Everyone turned over their sheet of paper and started reading the first question. Meanwhile, Anko, Kurenai, and Kabuto were relaxing in a dango shop in Konoha enjoying a snack while their students took their tests. Anko was predictably eating the most. You know, I actually kind of envy these kids. Getting to take the real test we couldn't. She said with her mouth full then swallowed. I don't know if you should. Kabuto warned. I looked into the tests this year as a precaution, and apparently Konoha's top interrogator is leading the first part. So, why would I care? Enko, being Oto's top interrogator after Orochimaru himself, wasn't an easily intimidated person. Kurenai meanwhile didn't look too intimidated either as she casually drank some green tea. Kabuto rested his chin on his clasped hands. Enko-chan, let's just say that from what I've heard from our trusted sources, that if you hadn't studied under Otokage-sama, you would have loved to have been this guy's pupil instead. Enko looked a bit impressed. Not bad, but no big deal. I'm sure our guys can handle it. I mean, it's not like the first test actually hurts them, right? Enko-chan, you of all people should know just what an expert in the T&I field can do to mess with people. Even without actually shedding blood. Kurenai stated. The purple-haired woman shrugged. You got a point. Either way, I have faith in them all. She then took another bite of dango. We didn't come this far to chicken out when the first tough guy showed up, did we? Time went by for the test takers, and within the first 5 minutes almost all the genin realized the true point of the test. The Oto and Suna genin came to the correct conclusion individually when they saw how difficult the questions were and noted that they were all carefully yet randomly seated apart from each other to make direct contact with each other all the more difficult. They all thought it their own way, but the overall summary of their thought process was like this. These questions look like the type only someone who's already an experienced Chunin or Junin could answer easily. I don't think it's possible for anyone to answer these without cheating. Maybe that's the point, since the guy did say we'd only get punished if we were caught cheating multiple times. Think of it like spying on a target. If you're sloppy you ruin the mission, but if you're stealthy enough to get away with it you can do the rest of the job when the opportunity comes. With that, the genin started cheating in their own ways. Gaara made a hovering eye out of sand to let him see the answers already written down and used some more of his sand to silently tell Kankuro and Tamari what he found out. Kankuro had carefully gotten his crow puppet mobile and disguised as an extra test monitor early on who was checking on the tests for correct answers, which he'd get from the puppet later. His left hand was under the table moving the puppet while his right hand was writing what he could already answer. Hinata activated her Byakugan but had to apply a genjutsu first to cover the telltale bulging veins. Haku used some movable ice mirrors much like Tenten was doing to see the answers and allow her teammates to as well. Kin used a minor genjutsu to make the tests next to her replicate only to her own eyes so they'd appear in her sight allowing her to read them without having to glance over the genin's shoulder to do so. Naruto activated his ghost body Kekkei Genkei, unnoticeable thanks to his dyed hair which showed no white coloring, and made some invisible clones to check out the answers and dispel, giving him the answers right away. Some of his clones whispered in his teammates and comrades' ears too. Dosu tapped his pencil on the desk in Morse code to give the answers to anyone able to figure out his message. Several teams were disqualified as time went on but none of the most notable ones. Kankuro asked for a bathroom break and his disguised crow was the one who handcuffed him and led him away for the sake of keeping him cooperative. In the meantime he got all the remaining answers from his puppet and made a copy of them to give to Tamari. Neji used his dujutsu to find the answers from the other genin while Sasuke carefully glanced at his neighbor's work without his Sharingan to aid him. Kiba had Akamaru glance at the other tests from atop his head and tell him the answers in barks. Shino had his insects fly over the room one or two at a time and report back to him. Shikamaru answered as many as he could on his own and used his shadow possession jutsu to make Choji mimic his movements. Sakura just worked on figuring the answers on her own, somewhat oblivious to the test's true purpose, and Ino took over her body briefly to see the answers. Alright, pencils down. Ibiki told everyone. Now, it's time to explain the rules for the 10th question. Listen carefully as I will only say this once. The interrogator's eyes scanned the room as if daring anyone to interrupt, pausing briefly longer than normal to stare at the Oto Nin. This rule is the most important one of the test. If anyone gets it wrong, then they automatically fail despite the score they already earned. And those that fail will be prohibited from ever being advanced anything higher ranked than a genin for the rest of their lives. Many people gasped. You can't do that. Others have taken the test before and keep trying. One of the Taki Nin shouted out. Too bad for you, because I wasn't in charge of the test those times. This time I am, and what I say goes. Get the 10th question wrong and you'll remain a genin forever. Get it right and you move on to the next round. However, all of you may choose to not answer the question. What? Kin asked in confusion. It's simple. If you feel that your careers are too important to risk, you may choose to sit the 10th question out. If you do, you withdraw from the Chunin exams but are allowed to take them again another time. Maybe then you'll get a more merciful person than me. So if anyone wants to leave now, raise your hand, then you and your entire team will be told to leave. Anyone who wants to stay and risk not only their futures, but those of their teammates, keep your hands down. Ibiki answered, adding some key to unnerve the genins a little while he was at it. Everyone in the room turned their heads to glance at their teammates, as if silently asking themselves what to do. Many of them weren't too confident in their ability to succeed here, so they volunteered to leave while they still could. Some looked nervous but remained in their seats. Naruto surprised everyone he knew by looking like he was raising his hand, only to slam his fist loudly on his desk. You think I came all this way and did all those missions for the right to take this test, just to hightail it when someone decides to play mind tricks with me? You're not the first one who's tried to intimidate me and you're certainly not the best. Go ahead and give me this risky 10th question. If I wasn't willing to take risks then I wouldn't be trying to become a Chunin in the first place. Ibiki glared back at the disguised Jinchuriki, but his peripheral vision told him that the other genin were stealing their nerves back up. Apparently his little outburst reminded them of the courage they needed to have on the job, the courage that Ibiki had been hoping to erode just now. You better watch your mouth, punk. You may have guts, but do your teammates. He saw two girls cross their arms in response, giving him his answer. Anybody else wished to press their luck and risk everything. No one dared to say they were going to drop out. Ibiki took a deep breath. In that case I have no choice. You all pass. There was a brief pause, until a genin spoke up in disbelief. What the hell do you mean? What do you think I mean? I said you all passed. But, what about the 10th question? Sakura asked. The 10th question was whether or not you were willing to take it. Ibiki told them, seeing most of them didn't get it yet. Like the loudmouth here mentioned in his rant, a ninja's life is full of risk. And when you're on missions, you will have to take risks and make decisions that will affect you and your team. Decisions that can get the job done, or get you all hurt badly. If you're too afraid to take those risks, then you're not fit to take this test. This exam is designed to do more than just test your combat skills. What we're doing is testing all your talents as a shinobi. What we were testing just now is your ability to gather information with minimal risk. Ibiki continued before taking off his headband and exposing his many scars. Information is one of the most important things a shinobi needs to do his job, and getting that information is often just as important to the job. Collecting needed information without getting exposed is an important skill for a Chunin. That's why we arranged this test the way we did. It was meant to simulate a mission where you all had to answer the questions, which could only be answered by cheating. My assistants here would pose as lookouts, keeping an eye out for those careless enough to get caught. Getting caught is the worst thing a ninja can do on the job, aside from betrayal. The scarred man saw that the genin were now understanding his words. Of course, in order for any of you to cheat you needed something to cheat from, a source of information to gather from. So we can two Chunin hid here to answer the questions. The aforementioned plants made small waving motions with their hands to indicate who they were. Anyone who could make it to the 10th question showed they were careful enough to cheat without getting caught or exposing their teammates in the process. Then we issued the 10th question, where we saw your faith in yourself and your comrades to continue the mission even if it meant risking failure. So far, you've all done a good job. And now, you're ready for the second part of the exam. Ibiki told all the genin who managed to get through the first test. One of the doors all of Ibiki's assistants had used to enter the room opened, and a young woman entered. She had long straight purple hair that reached to her waist and brown eyes. She wore standard Konoha Junin attire, but her vest was gray and her arms were exposed except for the metal guards on her forearms, revealing an Anbu tattoo on her right shoulder. On her back was a sheathed katana, indicating she must have some kenjutsu training. She stood next to Ibiki and placed her left hand on her hip as she looked over the crowd. My, there's a lot more than I expected here. Did you actually go easy on them, Ibiki? She asked. You doubt my skills. We just got a tough bunch this year. Sure, if you say so. She said as if she didn't buy it, then cleared her throat. Alright kiddies, listen up. I'm Yugao Azuki, and I'm the one in charge of the second portion of this exam. And this is where you start shedding blood, sweat, and tears. Not necessarily in that order. So everybody head outside now. Junin will escort you all to the location of the next test. With that, she disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Back in Oto, Kushina sat down with Orochimaru in his office. She was drinking a brew Tsunade made for her to help balance out her electrolytes since her body was still returning to normal. She probably only had another week or so to get to active ninja appropriate levels, even with the enhanced longevity and recovery that came natural to Uzumaki's. So what's on your mind, Kushina-san? Orochimaru asked, having a sip of tea as well. A lot. Kushina answered wearily. Orochimaru-sama, wait, can I call you that or should I? The snake Sanin nodded. Go ahead. We're not doing business and I have no need to pull rank, so my title is unnecessary in this conversation. Kushina nodded. Anyway, what bothers me most is, do you think it was wise to send Naruto into Konoha's clutches like that? Especially since Konoha is currently on alert for ninja from this village. If we don't do it now, we won't have another opportunity for several years. By then we risk Konoha finding out more about us and getting better prepared. With them in the dark and their morale shaken by the weakening of their for now only Uchiha, we have a good chance at hitting them when they're least likely to retaliate in full. Also, there's another reason I wanted Naruto there so soon. What's that? Kushina curiously asked. Orochimaru grinned. It involves making the Uchiha brat suffer a little more when the opportunity comes. And if Subsonic is correct in there being a genjutsu that prevents people from seeing him as Minato's son, then his presence will prove beneficial. Kushina shifted in her seat to get more comfortable. But what if Konoha does something bad to him? She sounded like the idea made her want to weep. It's a risk he's willing to take. And if it makes you feel any better, I'm sure all mothers feel that way regarding their children when they start becoming serious ninja. Speaking of which, did you want to return to active duty someday? First, let me see how my son does and what happens to Konoha. Then maybe, yes I will. But only as long as I get to help instruct Naruto while I'm at it. Orochimaru nodded. I'd actually prefer that. And you need not worry. Something tells me that Naruto is going to be just fine. And if an idea I have works out later, we'll all be just fine too. What idea is that? Kushina asked. Just wait and see, Kushina-san. I wouldn't want to needlessly raise your hopes up. The red-headed woman wanted to argue, but the look on the snake Sanin's face told her not to. She sighed and straightened up a bit more. Orochimaru-sama, if this plan of yours to attack Konoha does go through, I have one request. What is that? Kushina looked him right in the eyes, making Orochimaru gasp at what he now saw, and answered vengefully. Let me deal with the old man who started all this. Orochimaru's surprise turned into a smile. I see. Looks like Naruto wasn't the only one the Kyuubi helped out. All the attending genin were outside and several Konoha Anbu led them towards a gated forest with humongous trees. Teams were reunited and whispering amongst themselves in anticipation. Yugao reappeared while standing on one of the poles of the chain-link fence. Below her were several Junin holding stacks of papers. Alright kids, listen up. Behind me is Konoha's training ground number 44, also known as the Forest of Death. Here the best ninja test their skills against the worst things this or any other forest has to offer. Inside there are vicious man-eating animals, big blood-sucking bugs, quicksand pits you'll never see until it's too late, and even some of the plants are out to kill you. Rest assured, there's no way in hell all of you are coming out of this alive. Yugao then jumped off her pole. That's why before we start, we need all of you to sign some forms of consent. That way, our village can't be held responsible for any deaths and injuries that can, and likely will happen to you all. Even those of you from Konoha have to sign these. So we'll take a 10-minute break for all of you to do so. For convenience we'll just have one form per team that needs 3 signatures. The Junin started handing out forms to all the teams one at a time, staying close by to later take them back. The one who approached the three Oto teams was none other than Ebisu, although none of them knew anything about him. Here you nine go. Just where are you from anyway? I've never seen that symbol before. He asked them. Naruto just shrugged and looked over the form. Not saying. Ninja need their secrets. But could you tell me why such a supposedly dangerous forest has just a mere chain-link fence keeping people out and threats in? Ebisu momentarily looked at the fence, suddenly wondering that himself. It does the job, that's the important thing. 2 minutes later all 9 Oto Nin had signed their forms and returned them to the spectacled Junin. Good luck kids. You're going to need it. He added before he walked away. 12 minutes were needed for all forms to be given to Yugao, who accepted them without even looking at them. There was no need, as the Junin who handed them out would never hand them to her if they weren't fully signed. Okay, now that that's out of the way, I'll start explaining the rules of this part of the exam. She then jumped back on top of the pole to ensure everyone could see her, both hands on her hips. As the smarter of you have probably already guessed, you'll have to face a survival test. This test, however, will last 5 days, and once you start you absolutely cannot quit. Just as with missions, you cannot accept then just decide you changed your mind before you finish. There may be some exceptions to that rule but not in this case. Yugao started. You will have 5 days to complete your goal and reach your destination without your Junin senseis there to keep you in line or cover your backs. Those fit to be Chunin should be able to handle situations like that and know the best way to get the best results. Yugao then pulled out 2 scrolls she had strapped at her sides. One was black and had the kanji for earth on it, and the other was blue and had the kanji for heaven on it. These scrolls are your tickets to the next part of the exam. Literally. Each team will start out carrying a single scroll. Your goal is to acquire the opposite one by any means necessary and have your complete team reach the tower in the center of the forest by noon on the 5th day. Any teams missing a member or a matching set of scrolls will be forbidden entry into the tower and next portion of the exam. And any team can possess the opposite scroll and will fight to keep theirs and take yours from you. She saw several genin look at their teammates and allies as they took this all in. So in short, at most half of you will be able to make it to the 3rd round. But keep in mind you'll not only be facing rival ninja, but the terrain and environment itself at the same time. And you'll have to manage on your own but keep your team cooperative to fully succeed. This is no place to try pulling rank amongst yourselves and trying to feel big. Your lives are on the line, so don't go digging your own grave by doing stupid shit like that. At that time Kiba and Sasuke were practically glaring at each other as if saying, "Don't you dare think I'm letting you be the one in charge." Yugao just kept continuing her lecture, about to finish. So now that you know the objective of this test, here are the rules you need to keep in mind. Do not open the scrolls or you will suffer for it and be disqualified. Do not try to leave the enclosed area for the same reason. Do not come to the tower late or without all your team members. You are allowed to team up with other teams for this test, but all teams need their own set of scrolls to qualify for the next portion. You are to treat this as a real-life situation and mission, so killing is not forbidden, but I don't recommend you go looking for the chance to do it. Other than that, just try to survive. Any questions? Yeah, what do we do about food if we're going to be in there for 5 days? A chubby Konoha genin asked while raising his hand. Live off the land. Many things in the food are edible and the water is drinkable, so you shouldn't worry about starving. And you are allowed to bring provisions. Hopefully you all brought them and first aid with you for this test beforehand along with weapons. You're going to need them. Anything else? A blonde girl next to the chubby boy raised her hand. Yeah. What about hot baths or a change of clothes? Will they be provided? Yugao, many Junin, and several ninja in the crowd groaned in annoyance. What do you think this is? A vacation? Listen very carefully, girl, this is not a place of luxury or a comfortable situation. Your life will be at risk and you will have to fight every day here just to stay alive. Staying clean and well-dressed should be the last of your worries. If you absolutely must prioritize that, then take a dunk in one of the rivers and have the foresight to bring an extra set of clothes. Even so, I pity you as a kunoichi if you think like that. Worry about whether or not you bleed than whether or not you smell nice. Now, are there any serious questions? Naruto raised his hand. Yeah. What happens to a team that reaches the goal before the 5 days are up? Yugao smiled. Now that's a good one. The tower will provide rooms and food and hot water to any and all teams who make it there ahead of schedule. Think of it as a brief break before we get to the third round. You'll be free to do as you please as long as it doesn't break any village laws, and all teams will need to be in the entry room at noon 5 days from now to be considered acceptable participants for the next tests. Anyone else? Nobody replied, so Yugao decided to wrap it up. In that case, just stay there and let the Junin hand you your scroll. Keep quiet about which kind it is and don't even try to take one before you actually get inside the forest. Oh, I almost forgot. There are multiple entrances into the forest and you all will be assigned a gate to enter from, making it that much hard to find enemies and allies right away. So best of luck to you all and make your village proud. With that, she disappeared and the Junin handed out scrolls and randomly assigned gate numbers. Naruto's team got gate 14 and an earth scroll. Kin's team got gate 27 and a heaven scroll. Sasama, Haku, and Fu got gate 29 and an earth scroll. Gaara's team got gate 44 and a heaven scroll. They gave each other acknowledging nods before they headed to their assigned gates. Naruto, Hinata, and Isaribi had to take the long route to avoid their Hitai-Ates being spotted by Sasuke, Sakura, and Kiba. Everyone got ready, then a siren went off and the gates burst open. All teams headed right into the Forest of Death. A few minutes went by before Naruto, Hinata, and Isaribi stopped running and stood at the base of a large tree. Okay, we need a plan to get through this quickly. Any suggestions? Naruto started off with. We should try to get the other scroll by ourselves first. Isaribi suggested. If people see us with the others all the time, it'll tell them we're easy pickings and maybe we're plotting something together. Well, we are plotting something, but I get the idea and agree. Hinata said with a nod. Then she faced Naruto. Which scroll do we already have again? Naruto pulled it out of his pack. He was carrying it since they decided he was the best choice for keeping it to themselves. An Earth one. So we need a Heaven one. Why don't we find a Konoha team and take one from them? Hinata asked with a playful smile. It'll be easy for me to find us one. But what do we do when we find one? We shouldn't just barge in blindly. Nor limit ourselves to just Konoha teams either. Isaribi asked. Naruto nodded. Hina-chan, what can you tell us about the nearest teams? Hinata activated her Byakugan and looked around. There are 2 teams nearby, the ones that used the gates on either side of the one we used, and both possess an earth scroll as well. We should avoid them to conserve our strength then, since the fight would be pointless for us and them in the end. But they don't know that, so they may pursue us anyway. Then let's get moving. Naruto replied as he hid the scroll again. The 2 girls nodded and continued running. Hinata still had her Byakugan on, and soon panicked as shadows appeared above them all. Look out! At the same time, 3 kunoichi ran along the tree branches and planned out their own strategy. So do we fight every unknown team we see and go from there, or scout them first to see if they're worth the trouble? Fu asked. Scout first, obviously. Haku answered. Why would we do it the other way? That's just reckless. Sasama added. We'd have the element of surprise then and eliminate most of the competition that way. Fu explained. But only if we won each time. Sasama countered. You're forgetting our group have a Jinchuriki with a sneaky Kekkei Genkai, which gives us a huge advantage. Fu responded with a grin. A Jinchuriki? How nice. Let's see how tough you are, girly. Some unknown, unseen man's voice said from out of nowhere. Crap, we're being ambushed. Sasama said as she drew out a bladed gauntlet she strapped onto her right hand and forehead and came to a stop. Fu pulled out a dagger and Haku grabbed some Senbon as the 3 got back to defend themselves from whoever had overheard them. Meanwhile, Kin, Zaku, and Dosu were trying to avoid a thick cluster of thorn bushes by jumping from tree to tree above them. So what's the plan? Zaku asked. I say we should try to get to the tower quickly to avoid most of the traps here and handle any other teams that try to assault us along the way. Kin suggested. No way, that's no fun. We should go find someone and take their scroll from them, then go to the tower. Dosu countered. I agree. I want to have some fun while I can. Your idea is just stupid, Kin. Zaku added. No, I'm trying to be realistic. The kunoichi argued. In case you haven't noticed, this is hostile territory and we don't exactly make the best assault-style team. Your idea of charging head-on in will cost us a lot. Our best chance lies in a sneak attack. Like if we surprised someone already on their way to the goal. The two boys were silent for a moment. Okay, that's smarter than I gave you credit for, but it just sounds so boring. Zaku commented. Kin turned her head to give her teammate an irritated look. We're not here to have fun, Yubaka. Doesn't mean we can't. Lighten up, Kin babe. Stop calling me that. Kin all but shouted. Dosu kept to himself but also kept his focus on his surroundings. Which is what probably saved his team the most in the next few seconds. Down. Now. He told his teammates as he descended to the base of the giant tree. What the? Kin and Zaku asked themselves, then got their answer in the form of a giant fireball approaching them from the front. Temari, Kankuro, and Gaara were running across the ground and, being the slowest of the four allied teams, were behind all the others distance-wise. Fortunately they were in a relatively open area so they had hospitable terrain for now. Being desert-based shinobi they knew they had a big disadvantage in the forest, especially against any Konoha teams. So we agreed to find one of the Oto teams as quick as possible so we can back each other up. Temari asked her brothers. Oto was more experienced in these environments. You have to ask. Kankuro asked back, then he smirked teasingly. You know, if you want to hang around your boy toy some more, you can make a better excuse than that Nei-san. Remind me to hit you for that later. The short, ponytailed girl replied. Can do. Gaara said, worrying Kankuro. Soon the open part of the training ground came to an end and they had to enter the actual forest. The trip stuck to the ground and walked through slowly for two purposes. The first was to be more aware of any approaching threat, and the second was to make themselves a more appealing target to enemy ninjas. They were going ninja fishing with themselves as the bait, but bait that could fight back and take the scroll they needed. All of a sudden a group of small birds quickly flew away and a twig could be heard snapping. Temari grabbed her fan, Kankuro grasped the wrapping on his karasu, and Gaara just stood his ground as all three awaited the approacher. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a tiger that walked out from behind a tree. This could be a problem. Kankuro muttered. With a swing of Temari's fan and some of Gaara's sand, the tiger was quickly gotten rid of without a trace but likely still alive somewhere. They wouldn't have to worry about it coming back anytime soon though. When they finished, Temari looked at Kankuro with a cocky smile. And you were worried? Easy for you to say. You wouldn't have to risk damaging your weapon to get rid of something like that. I'd rather not try to break my puppet before we actually encounter someone. Kankuro defended himself. Ah, but that was just a big cat. I bet I could find a young cub and take it home and make it a pet. Temari countered, saying it in an uncharacteristically girly manner that made it impossible to tell if she was being serious or not. Oh sure, and where would you keep a jungle cat in the desert? Kankuro asked sarcastically. We have oases. Those are public training and resting grounds. Quiet both of you. Gaara interjected sternly. There might be more. I doubt it. Temari argued. I heard tigers are territorial so there's little risk of seeing another anytime soon. If that's true, then wouldn't the tiger's territory be deeper than this, closer to the denser part of the forest? Gaara asked. I guess. What's your point? Kakuro asked. I think we may have bigger threats here than we were led to believe. The dark-eyed Jinchuriki said. Not sure what to say, the three Sunanin continued on their way. Kin, Zaku, and Dosu all luckily dodged the giant fireball by diving under it. None of them counterattacked since they didn't see the enemy yet and they didn't know any area affecting jutsus yet. Note to self, see if Kabuto-sensei can teach us some of those when we get out of this. Kin thought. The fire evaporated into smoke, leaving some lasting burn marks on the trees. Now that they were warned, the three Oto genin got out their weapons. Dosu readied his sound blaster, Zaku cleared his pipes, and Kin grabbed a fusenbon. In the meantime they still tried to go forward on the trees rather than stop and make themselves an easier target. At the end of the thorn collection they saw their assaulters. They didn't know them personally, but they recognized the description right away. They came to a stop in front of the other team, creating a ninja standoff. Zaku spoke first. Duck-ass hair on one, pink hair on another, with a white dog. Yep. You three must be the douchebags we heard so much about. What did you call us? Kiba angrily asked. Douchebag, douchebag, douchebag. Zaku repeated. Zaku, remember what Kabuto-sensei said about antagonizing the enemy. Kin warned. Yeah, that we should do it as much as possible. He replied. It makes it harder for them to focus so their fighting gets sloppy. Kiba growled ferally. You think you're so big. At least we come from a real village. Enough. What we really want to know is where are the rest of your group. We want the ones from your village we already met. Sasuke declared. Speak for yourself, Sasuke. You're the one that wants that, so don't go speaking for me like that. Kiba stated to his teammate. Ah, does the mutt not like taking orders? You know what happens to disobedient dogs. Dosu jested. Let's get him, Akamaru. Kiba said as he ran towards Dosu. Looks like at least one of you has any guts. Zaku said condescendingly. I'll show you who has guts. Sasuke said as he pulled out a kunai. And I'll take out your own while I'm at it. Sakura looked towards the Oto Kunoichi, wondering what to do, only to see she had disappeared. What the? She was cut off by a kick from behind that sent her towards the ground. She didn't reach it since something grabbed her hair from behind, causing her scalp to hurt badly, along with a foot pressing down on her back. Nice hair. Kin said. Free advice from one kunoichi to another. If you have the time to make your hair this soft and glossy for a mission, you're going to get in trouble for neglecting the real necessities. Sakura looked at Sasuke, hoping he would help her. But unfortunately he wasn't even looking at her, just focusing on his opponent. However, Zaku's wind jutsus made it impossible for him to get close enough to do damage. And the Uchiha's fire techniques were just blown away from their target. Kiba and Akamaru weren't doing much better themselves against Dosu's Melody Gauntlet. Sasuke-kun, help me. She silently pleaded. Shadow Clone Jutsu. In a split second, a dome of Naruto's was made to protect the original along with Hinata and Isaribi from whatever was coming at them. What is it? Isaribi asked. Leeches. Giant leeches. The size of big dogs. Hinata answered. Isaribi looked confused. That can't be. Leeches can't get that big, and even if they did they'd be too heavy to move or breathe outside water, let alone climb into trees that high. Tell them that. Hinata replied hostily. Girls, my clones can't last much longer. Let's go. Naruto said, revealing a gap between his clones they could use to leave. A few clones dispelled and it looked like the giant leeches were after the people with real blood. So the three genin got away quickly. Seriously, those leeches weren't normal. Something has to be going on here. Isaribi continued. So what do you think? Hinata asked. I'm thinking this place has traps already set up by the locals. I don't think we're facing just natural obstacles here. Konoha does not want many of us to pass this test. Remember that woman was surprised so many got through the first test. And said at most half of us would pass this one, but she said it like she didn't believe that would happen. So you're saying this test may be fixed to be more dangerous than it should be on its own? Naruto asked. Well, leeches are by nature aquatic animals, so why else would they be in treetops? The swimming enthusiastic asked, but her teammates gave no answer. Hinata, who still had her Byakugan active, saw something of interest right then. Never mind that now, we should probably go north-northeast now. Why? Naruto and Isaribi asked even though they did turn that way with her. One of our guys may need some help. Sasama, Fu, and Haku jumped out of the trees and landed on the ground to dodge a cluster of kunai thrown at them from whoever spotted them. None threw their weapons, waiting to see the target first. The target landed in front of them, revealed to be a trio of men from AIM wearing beige jumpsuits with longer than needed sleeves and breathing masks. Oddly, one of them had one eye covered while another had both eyes completely covered. Nice, 3 girls. That's something you don't see every day. The AIM nin with both eyes visible said. Careful. One of them is a Jinchuriki apparently. The cycloptic AIM nin added cautiously. Then we better subdue her first. Won't Leader Sama be pleased to have one so soon? Fu didn't like the sound of that. Fortunately they don't appear to know which one of us it is. But me just mentioning it should make me their first guess. Haku did a set of hand signs and the air suddenly got colder. Not that the AIM nin minded it much, as their outfits were insulating as least. Ice style. Crystal Ice Mirrors Jutsu. A dome of ice panels appeared around the enemy and Haku stepped into one. You three won't be going anywhere. The three AIM Nin responded by trying to escape in three separate directions, figuring they couldn't be blocked completely. However, Sasama and Fu quickly got in front of the two closest to them while Haku shifted towards the third. Ice Style. Thousand Needles Jutsu. Haku called out, creating many ice needles that fired out of her mirrors towards them all. Earth Style. Trap Chasm Jutsu. Sasama declared with her hands thrust into the ground, creating a large but not too deep fissure that stopped one AIM Nin from advancing. Wind Style. Cyclone Fist Jutsu. Fu proclaimed as a small tornado formed around each arm and fired off at her own target, forcing him back towards the center of the dome. Haku smiled at their teamwork. Being a team for over a year, they had gotten this method down to a T. She trapped them and her two teammates ensured no one got out through the gaps in the mirrors, or in through the gaps either. It was much better than doing it all by herself, which would have been taxing on her concentration. All three AIM Nin took a hit, but when they did they dissolved into mud. Oh crap. We're fighting clones. Fu said, briefly worried. The three AIM Nin appeared from behind Fu. And now we know your tricks. Fu turned and glared at them. Damn, now that they saw the ice dome getting them into it will be next to impossible. And how do I know these aren't more clones? Only one way to find out. She grabbed a kunai and threw it at the center shinobi. The AIM Nin caught it, unamused by the effort. He was about to snidely retort, until he saw the lit paper bomb attached. Fu meanwhile dashed inside Haku's ice dome for safety and the bomb exploded before the catcher could drop it. The smoke cleared and Haku got rid of the dome, finding it unnecessary now. The three kunoichi saw no remains of their foes. More clones? Sasama asked. Likely. We better keep an eye out for them so AIM doesn't learn about us. Haku said, covering for Fu in case the real ninja were still listening. Great. Another objective. Fu sarcastically added. Sasama looked at the surrounding trees. What's the matter? A bunch of tough men like yourselves afraid to fight us girls head on. I heard Omegakure was a nothing village and you guys just proved that right. That did the trick. The real AIM trio showed up in front of them. Alright girlie, now you're in for it. The one-eyed one moved first, his baggy sleeves hiding his hand signs before he slammed his palms on the ground. Earth Style. Mud Flood Jutsu. A huge wall of mud rose and then rushed towards the girls like a sort of horizontal avalanche. Unable to counter, the kunoichis dodged by jumping onto the low branches of the trees. Fu threw two more kunai with paper bombs attached but the targets dodged that and joined them in the branches. One of the AIM Nin moved his sleeves to reveal a Senbon launcher and fired it. All three girls used their kunais to deflect them but Sasama took two hits in her left thigh. Ice Style. Thousand Needles Jutsu. Haku countered with, but got a few more hits. She and Sasama threw a few shuriken while Fu vanished. The AIM Nin blocked them and looked cocky even with their faces covered. Ha! And you said our village was pathetic. Yours has to be even worse. The one-eyed one mocked. Haku and Sasama looked at each other and nodded. Thank Kami for Naruto-kun's twisted mind. Haku said to her teammate. Sexy Jutsu costume version. The two girls shouted together before transforming. Haku became an adult version of herself but blonde and wearing a kinky nurse's outfit, guaranteed to raise a patient's blood pressure, and Sasama become an adult brunette wearing a black catgirl costume with a belled collar, posing like a happy kitten. The men looked at them strongly for 5 seconds before they all had nosebleeds, even the one with no visible eyes. They tried to turn away to save what blood they had left and avoid drowning inside their masks, but realized they were exposing their backs and turned to face the girls again. This time, to their relief and disappointment, they were back to normal. And 3 seconds later Fu reappeared and nodded at her teammates. The lead AIM Nin looked ready to do something, but a strong burst of wind from behind knocked him and his teammates out of the tree and face first in the dirt. Haku, Fu, and Sasama were spared the brunt of the force, and knew why the instant Tamari showed up on one of the remaining branches. Hi you three. Need a hand? The Suna blonde asked. It couldn't hurt. Sasama answered as she removed the needles in her leg. Down on the ground, Gaara and Kankuro were already handling the AIM Nin. Actually, Gaara stood back for a moment, letting his brother get a shot in because the Suna Jinchuriki would take all the fun if he did anything first. Kankuro didn't have the time to analyze his opponents since they were swaggering to their feet, recovering from Temari's surprise attack. Acting on instinct, he wrapped his Karasu puppet and attached his chakra strings. He made it fire a stream of poison-tipped Senbon from its mouth, hitting the two nin with covered eyes. Why are they blinding themselves in the first place? He briefly asked himself. The Oto Kunoichi trio and Temari softly landed on the ground by the men, ready to keep fighting. Gaara raised his right hand in an open grasping fashion. Sand coffin. Sand he already had scattered on the forest floor before Temari attacked rose up and engulfed the bodies of the AIM shinobi. Then he closed his hand in a tight fist. Sand burial. The mounds of sand compressed themselves, crushing the trapped people inside with hundreds of pounds of pressure per square inch. Thanks a lot, Gaara. Now neither of our teams can get their scroll and get out of here quicker. Kankuro complained. Fu smiled and pulled a scroll out of her pocket. Already got it. Haku-chan and Sasama-chan provided the distraction I needed to sneak it out of their pockets. It's a heaven scroll, by the way. The one we need. Damn, we need an earth scroll. You three keep it then. We'll find another. Temari said. Good luck. See you at the tower. The Kunoichi said before they parted ways with the Suna group, who went out hunting again. Kin, Zaku, and Dosu were still busy with the efforts made by Kiba, Sasuke, and Sakura. Sakura finally did something by cutting off the hair that Kin had been holding and got away, but now she was primarily on the defensive. Sasuke was holding his own but not as much as he wanted to, and Kiba with Akamaru was giving everyone a challenge once they did their Fang over Fang combo. Dosu and Zaku wisely decided to switch opponents, as Zaku could handle two targets better than Dosu could. Kiba and Sasuke thought little of it as they still had someone to defeat and, in their minds, easily get to kick the other's ass once they finished the current one in front of them. Sakura and Kin faced off against each other, the pinkett in a defensive stance with a kunai and the brunette in an offensive stance with several senbon, both waiting for the other to move. Sakura suddenly felt a sharp sting of pain in the back of both knees, instantly making her fall down as if kneeling. What the? She asked and felt for the problem, finding a senbon in both her knees. How did you? The Kin in front of her faded into nothing. A clone. The real Kin kicked her on the back, making her opponent land on her face. You have no imagination. It had actually been a minor genjutsu that tricked the victim into seeing the caster as if they were standing still, waiting to make a move, which allowed the real Kin to move behind her victim without being noticed as long as she was quiet. Kiba suddenly went after Kin, forcing the brunette to dodge. The dog nin paused for a moment. You okay, Sakura? Yeah, thanks Kiba. She said quietly as she pulled out the senbon. Want me to handle her for a moment? If you can, go ahead. Sakura tried to look at Sasuke, who hadn't even glanced her way yet, too preoccupied with his own fight with Dosu. Fang over Fang. Kiba attacked with Akamaru, aimed at Kin. She performed a substitution with a rock, which Kiba hit head-on, knocking him out briefly. Akamaru pounced on the girl and bit her left thigh, making her cry out. Suddenly someone came over and grabbed the small dog, making him let go from surprise. Hey! Bad dog. No biting. Naruto-kun. Kin happily said at seeing the disguised blonde. He hated doing it, but Naruto had to toss Akamaru away before the dog tried attacking him. The puppy growled but decided tending to its partner was a bigger priority now. Of all the guys to face, we had to run right into these ones. Naruto lamented. Dosu was keeping Sasuke at bay with high-frequency sound waves, but Sasuke had a good counter for that defense. Fire style. Phoenix flower jutsu. 3 fireballs shot out of his mouth aimed right at Dosu as he tried to dodge to the side. Water style. Water wall jutsu. Isaribi called out just before a wall of water rushed up from Sasuke's left to defend the maimed mummy. Where'd that water come from? There are no rivers or ponds near here. Sasuke asked himself. He was already frowning at his attack being deflected, but his frown turned into a glare when he saw who deflected it. You. Isaribi gave him a smug look. Well, I'll be damned. It's the red-eyed bastard. Oh wait, you don't have red eyes anymore. Sasuke never caught this girl's name or skills, but he knew she was with the group he encountered in Wave The music note emblem was proof enough. Were you the one who did that to me? He demanded to know as he readied himself for some lethal jutsu. No, but I'm not going to tell you who did. Hinata tried to attack Sasuke from behind with a strike to the head, but he heard her footsteps. So he retaliated by turning around, grabbing her wrists, and throwing her over his back and towards Hinata. This was a basic defensive maneuver of the Uchiha's intercepting fist taijutsu. But once the two girls were in the same spot, he did something even worse. Fire style. Great fireball jutsu. Naruto's eyes widened and his heart stopped for a moment when he saw his teammates engulfed by flames before they could get away. Then he became pissed, and red chakra started to cover him like a cloak. Kin smiled at the boy she admired. Go get him, Naruto-kun. Before he did, the flame went out and two more growing chakra auras could be sensed. Hinata and Isaribi had some of their clothes burned off and their skin was healing from the burns they got, but the most noticeable thing was that both were covered in their stage 1 curse markings and purple-black chakra auras. And they looked pissed too. What the hell are you three? Sasuke asked in fearful awe as his eyes darted between Naruto, Hinata, and Isaribi. Enemies of the leaf. Isaribi started. We're shinobi. Hinata added. Of the sound. Naruto finished.